First, look thou with favor upon these here assembled, and bestow thy guidance upon the members of the governing body in their deliberations. This we ask in thy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In event of emergency, the proper method for exiting the council chambers is through the 3 rear doors in the back of the room. Occupants should proceed down the staircase, out the front door, and move away from the area of the front steps. Any member of the public wishing to speak during the public comment session at the end of the meeting, please sign in on the white sheets provided in the front of the room. Please turn off all cell phones or place them on vibrate. If you must make a call, please leave the council chambers to do so. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Kalbas.
Here.
Koziel. Here. Brown.
Yes.
Armstead.
Here.
Cosby Hurling.
Here.
Sadowski.
Here.
Sheehy.
Here.
Yamikaitis.
Here.
Frazier.
Here.
Kaczynski.
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here. Thank you. We're going to move into our minutes. The regular meeting of October 16th and 2012 and the special meeting of November 7th of 2012. I'd like to get a motion.
Council President, I ask for the approval of the minutes on October 20th, 2012. I'll seek a second. Second.
Mr. Kalbas.
Yes.
Koziel.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Armstead.
Yes.
Cosby Hurling.
Yes.
Sadowski.
Yes.
Sheehy.
Yes.
Yamikaitis.
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Kaczynski.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes. This evening we have a presentation for New Star. I'd like to ask the mayor, Mr. Kaczynski, and Chief Rizzo to come up.
Mike, Joe, Craig, Sylvia. Over here. On September 25th, we have it occurred on September 25th, but we have an annual fire prevention night every year so that we could educate our residents and let them learn the dangers that fire can do to homes and industries in a municipality. And New Star, which is a corporation on the other side of the Turnpike in Tremley Point, was kind enough and generous enough to donate $4,000 to support this event, again on September 25th of this year. That's one of the many contributions that New Star gives to the city of Linden. And I'm proud to say that as the mayor of this city, I am so glad that we have a corporation such as New Star in our community that is so concerned about the city of Linden and its residents. And just to deviate a little bit before I introduce the fire chief and before Councilman in the 10th Ward reads the resolution honoring New Star. This morning I was honored by New Star and their corporate people by getting a $100,000 donation from the Greevy Foundation, which is the CEO of New Star, to go to the United Way of the Greater Union County to assist in our hurricane disaster related issues. And then the New Star Foundation also gave us $10,000, again for the same purpose. And then this Executive Vice President, Mary Rose Brown, contributed $3,000, again for the hurricane disaster relief in Union County, which Linden suffered a considerable amount of damage in the Tremley Point area due to the 15-foot tidal surge. So this is the type of corporate people that we have in the city of Linden, that not only is concerned as a corporation with making a profit, but is also concerned about our community and helps us when we are in need of assistance. So as the mayor, I just want to recognize New Star and thank each and every one of you individuals for everything you do for the city of Linden. You are one of many corporations that are there when we need you, and today you sure proved that very much so. So again, thank you very much, and Chief Rizzo, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to expand on what the mayor said, I guess it was probably back in the spring, New Star called us and says that we'd like to help you with some type of community project that you would like to do. So I brought Deputy Chief Callahan from Fire Prevention Bureau into a meeting with New Star, and we explained to them that every year we do an annual fire prevention program for the whole community. And they were very receptive to that idea, and they said that we would like to sponsor that for you. And it's a costly event, and we were very happy to find corporate donors that would like to sponsor that. And we're very appreciative, and I'm sure that the citizens of Linden are also very appreciative too. Thank you.
And as the chair of the fire committee, it becomes something of a focus for fire prevention and different things like that. You become very aware of it. And to still have children especially come up to me and talk about fire prevention night and what they learned shows that our firefighters care, but also they have the backing of both the citizens and the corporate citizens of Linden. And without that, the success would be fleeting. So I personally thank you, as well as the fire committee and council, and I would like to read this resolution honoring New Star. Resolution recognizing New Star Energy LP for their co-sponsorship of Fire Prevention Night. Whereas in 2010, there were 362,100 residential building fires in the United States, resulting in 2,555 deaths, 13,275 injuries, and $6,646,900,000 in property losses. And whereas in 1920, President Woodrow Wilson first recognized the need to educate individuals on Fire Prevention Night and the steps to take in the event of a fire when he declared the first National Fire Prevention Day. And whereas the main goal of this annual focus on fire prevention is to educate families about what to do in the event of a fire and how to prevent fires. And whereas the Fire Department of the City of Linden held their annual Fire Prevention Night entitled Partners in Fire Safety on September 25th, 2012. And whereas New Star Energy LP 4501 Tremley Point Road has consistently offered its support to the Linden community. And whereas New Star Energy, realizing the importance of fire prevention education, co-sponsored the Linden Fire Department's Fire Prevention Night by generously donating $4,000 in support of the event. And whereas New Star Energy employees Mike Rakos, Craig Whittemore, and Joe Abrahams were particularly responsible in obtaining this generous donation in support of this worthy event. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Linden that hereby recognize and thank New Star Energy for their generous donation in support of this important educational program, and be it further resolved that the Mayor and Council do hereby express their deepest appreciation of Mike Rakos, Craig Whittemore, and Joe Abrahams for their efforts in support of this worthwhile endeavor, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be appropriately presented to New Star Energy, Mike Rakos, Craig Whittemore, and Joe Abrahams in recognition of their efforts, and a copy be placed in the minutes of the City Council of the City of Linden in recognition of these efforts. Signed, Council President James D. Moore, Richard J. Grabunka, Mayor. Thank you.
New Star has a culture where, we believe we give back to the community in which we operate in. And as the facility manager, that's something that I believe in too. And we're always here to help our neighbors. And we reach out to the mayor, police chief, the fire chief, and if there's any need that we can help with, our door is always open. We want to make sure we're good corporate neighbors and we help the people of the city of Linden. So I appreciate this. We don't do it for this, we do it because we want to help. But this is something nice that we proudly display as well. So thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Ordinance 5653 was tabled last meeting of October 16th, 20. I'd like to call on Councilwoman Cosby Hurley.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to move to amend Ordinance 5653 on the second reading as follows. The Commission shall, for Section 3, the Commission shall be comprised of 11 members appointed by the council for a one-year term, the mayor or his designee from the police department, the fire chief or his designee, and may include on a volunteer basis the president or designee from each of the following associations: Linden PBA number 42, Linden LPSOA number 42A, Linden FMBA number 34, and Linden FMBA 234. I have been advised that this amendment is substantive in nature, which will require additional hearing on the ordinance. I move to amend the ordinance and ask for a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
No.
Sheehy?
No.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
No.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
No. We're going to move into ordinances on hearings, 5657. No ordinance on hearings. This is a date and time established for public hearings for ordinance. Mr. Clerk, 5657.
An ordinance to amend an ordinance entitled, an ordinance establishing a schedule of titles, salary ranges, and regulations for maintaining the classification and salary standardization plan of all employees of the City of Linden, passed August 15, 1995, and approved August 16, 1995.
Has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Have we received any written communication?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on the ordinance? Please step up. Push that button. Thank you.
I just want a point of clarification on here, where you mentioned the chief public defender, a minimum of 20,000 and a maximum of 30,000 plus. Is this all the money that is going to be spent for all the public defenders that we see, like every month, you know, the public defender for, you know, so many hours or so much? So this is the money that's allocated for that?
Mr. Hudak, would
That is the current salary. The public defender, who would be the chief public defender, that's his current salary range.
So that's just for him, it doesn't include those?
No,
that we see-
anytime that the city has to engage for any reason an outside contractor to assist, in a case where there's, let's say, 3 or 4 defendants and you need more public defenders than we have on staff, those are contracted and they're paid a per diem, per appearance, per client matter fee. They're not a salary, that's a contract matter.
So it's not included in here, those
No, this
those
is a
numbers,
salary
right,
ordinance.
salaried on that.
This has nothing to do with contracts.
Right, okay, thanks.
Any more comments from the members of the public? If not, motion, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. President, I move the hearing be closed and the ordinance adopted, and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5658.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7, Traffic, shall be amended as follows. Section 7-33, Handicap Parking Regulations, 7-33.1A, Handicap Parking on Street. Add 817 Union Street, 1 space, 613 Jackson Avenue, 1 space.
Has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Have we received any written communication?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on the ordinance? Seeing none, I ask for a motion.
Yes, Mr. President, I move the hearing be closed and the ordinance adopted, and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5659.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7, Traffic, shall be amended as follows. Section 7-34, Reserve shall be deleted. Add Section 7-34, Don't block the box.
Has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Have we received a written communication?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on the ordinance? Sir? Please turn your cell phones off.
Good evening, Dennis Kopecki up on Erudo Street, and I'm familiar with what this particular ordinance is meant to do. Particularly, I think Clinton Street is one of the streets that are included in the thinking that goes with this, but I have some questions as to enforcement of the box. What are we planning to do for it? Are we going to post an officer there, a patrolman, at each of the 3 intersections, Woodlawn, Clinton Street, and Route 1? And has funding been approved for it so that we can provide enforcement? Where are we standing on enforcement? Not just wasting money on paint, please, tell us.
Mrs. Yamakaitis, could you
Yes,
enlighten us?
I recommended that this ordinance be presented. This is very effective in the city of Newark, which also has staffing problems. And it is posted above each intersection, and the message gets out. If you have it posted and you do have enforcement, you're not going to have a police officer at every intersection. The thing is, if it is enforced, and I was informed by the state of New Jersey, this would be a local enforcement issue.
That's why
People
I
will,
asked.
the message will get out if the ticket starts being given. This is a major problem for the 8th Ward at Bachelor Avenue, the 6th Ward at Clinton Street, the 7th Ward has also accesses that. So we are looking for some relief. Some of our residents can't get across these intersections, for 2-3 light cycles. So I think the message would get out if you do some enforcement, and it would have to be local enforcement. And I think, you have the red light cameras. This is something that is, I think, an even bigger problem than the speeding issues on the highway. There is so much gridlock on that highway that we need some relief already. And if we get the local enforcement, the message will get out. Everyone knows you don't speed in certain towns, so it's a matter of just doing it.
Councilman Sadowski?
Yeah, I just want to agree. We've been discussing this for the last year, especially Clinton. And Clinton and the highway, it's in my ward, 6th Ward, but it leads directly to St. Teresa's Church, which A lot of the people cross the highway, and a lot of them are elderly. It's very, very dangerous. And like I said, with the mayor, myself, and I think Ron Stefanowitz, we've talked to the state, and like we said before, like blue in the face. So we are hoping with Mrs. Yamakaitis that maybe the box will help. And I think it has to be enforced at the beginning, and then, like you said, maybe after a while, they'll, stop themselves. But that's one of the worst corners to cross.
You and I both know that.
Like, we talked this at least a year.
Councilman Brown?
No, go ahead, let's hear what you have to say.
No,
please.
I know your original question was a matter of enforcement. Do we have the manpower to do this? How do we do that? I give you a perfect example. In the ward, me and Rich share Elizabeth Avenue and Wood Avenue. Every once in a while, you see police out there. This is something that while they're out there enforcing, people abiding by the law with the stopping at the red lights, not turning on red, things like this. This is something additional that they have that they can enforce while they're out there to improve the flow of traffic and reduce the amount of accidents that we're having out there. So, I mean, the police are very good at every once in a while going to an intersection and enforcing the traffic laws over there. I mean, I support this because this is going to help me, especially in my ward.
Councilman Sheehy?
I'd like to thank Mrs. Yamakaitis for all her hard work on this. We've been dealing with this for years. We actually had the state come down and try timing the red lights to try getting the traffic to flow. And we've all, this affects all our wards here, 6th, 7th, and 8th, bad. And the only way is to start giving out a couple tickets and the word gets out. And, because it's actually a nuisance. You cannot cross that highway between 3:30 and 6 o'clock because somebody is always blocking the box. And I appreciate all the work that was done to get this ordinance passed. Thank you, sir.
May I recommend, and first let me be clear, I think Councilman Brown was at least mentioned something about the police do a very good job, and my question is not with how well the police function in this town. I appreciate what they do, and I am thankful for them. But may I also recommend that possibly with this particular ordinance, we add some wording or we consider some way of scheduling a follow-up to find out if the box actually did work. Did we issue enough tickets? Did the word get out? Say a year from now, after the boxes are painted. Can we at least have a resolution, something, or wording added to this one to the point of saying, okay, as of December 31st, 2013, a special evaluation of the program has to take place. And in that respect, okay, we'll do it.
Chief, don't you, do you monitor the existing traffic enforcement codes?
Summonses, everything in the police department is monitored.
Okay. In that regard, then, I hope that this program works. On the other hand, can we call for an evaluation at some later date then that make sure this gets included in your evaluation of the tickets and everything else?
I think it'd be prudent to let the police department.
Oh, indeed. Indeed, I'm not going to argue with
you know,
when they do it, but I mean,
let's
plan
give
to
it a
do
chance. And, if there's the problem, the police will bring it to us.
I'll let you know if there's a problem.
I appreciate
I use
that.
that intersection all the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I ask for a motion if there's no one else wishes to speak on the ordinance. Motion, please.
Mr. President, I move that the hearing be closed and ordinance 5659 be adopted and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamikaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, 5660.
Bond ordinance appropriating $121,000 for the installation of traffic signals and related traffic improvements for the police department, and authorizing the issuance of $114,950 in bonds or notes to finance part of the appropriation.
Mr. Clerk, has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Have we received any written communication?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on the ordinance? Motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move the hearing be closed and the ordinance adopted and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5661.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 2, Administration as follows. Delete 2-23.9 Municipal Public Defender, Section 23.9A and B. Add new Section 2-23.9 Municipal Public Defender, Section 23.9A and B.
Mr. Clerk, has the ordinance been properly published and posted?
Yes, sir.
Have we received any written communication?
No, sir.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on the ordinance? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion.
Yes, Mr. President, I move the hearing be closed and the ordinance adopted and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. Yes. We're going to move into the consent agenda. All items listed with the asterisk are considered to be routine by the City Council, will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless council members or citizens so request. In the event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. We have items 1 through 8. Does anybody in the audience wish to pull item 1 through 8? Am I right? Center? Left? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion.
Thank you, Council President. I ask that consent agenda items 1 through 8 be passed and seek a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. We're going to move into committee reports. Mr. Kalbus?
Thank you, Council President. Terry, First Ward resident, I still have a few leaf bags left available for anybody interested. Please call me at 908-925-5568. Excuse me. With the unique situation that was Hurricane Sandy and the damage placed on our city, I want to take this time to recognize the OEM, the DPW, the fire department, the police department, public property, the Board of Health, the people at City Hall, and the welfare department, and any other city entity that I failed to mention for all the hard work and response to this unbelievable occurrence. All of these departments did their part to make sure the city was up and running as what the situation dictated, and I thank you for that. I want to congratulate Armando Medina on his victory in the 9th Ward for 9th Ward Councilman. I look forward to working with you on this council. I also want to thank all the First Ward residents who came out and to support me in my reelection, and thank you for your trust in me. And finally, I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. This concludes my report, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman, and you're free to take a leave for your illness. At any time.
I will stay in as long as I can hang in, Council President.
All right, thank
Thank you, though.
Councilman Cozio?
Thank you. He's a trooper. Number one, he's a trooper. I also want to congratulate, before I'm remiss in doing so, Armando Medina in the 9th Ward. Welcome. Congratulations. And Chris Kalbus for being reelected to the First Ward Council. Just a couple of mentions here as the First Ward Councilman in the aftermath of the hurricane. There were many trees down around the ward as we woke up on Tuesday morning. The Department of Public Works cleared as many as they could post-storm. The trees that remain needed to be determined safe by PSE&G. And I know we had one significant tree in the 2nd Ward on DeWitt Street, the 500 block, which took at least 5 or 6 days to be removed, and it was finally taken care of. I'd like to thank all the residents of the 2nd Ward for their patience and cooperation during the 7 days without electricity in their homes. However, there was one little enclave of homes between the 500 and 600 block that never lost power. After several days, many residents called me for answers, and I offered as much information and encouragement as I possibly could. Unfortunately, there were just some questions I could not answer. Foremost among them was when would power be restored. I spoke to the mayor. I was with the mayor in his office as much as I could be over the 3 days after the storm, trying to gather information, and everybody was hungry for the information. But what became clear to me, and again, there's no criticism that could be pointed to anyone after an event like this, because honestly, we've never experienced anything like this before. I think everybody from the top level on down acted admirably and did what they could and did what they thought was right. This is a time not for blame, not for criticism, but to learn what to do better next time. And I think I'm going to speak on that in a little bit. But first and foremost, I think we need for a municipality to have and educate members of council on our utilities power infrastructure, how the power is distributed to our homes, what substations supply the power to our city, and define the power grid ward by ward and street by street on where the power is supplied from the substations. Because when you go around a ward and you could have 90% of the ward out, but a few blocks that are still on, I want to be able to tell somebody, I know what's wrong, I know there's a substation they're working on, and I have a reasonable answer for when that's going to be brought back online. If we don't know, that's the only thing that we can't tell them. We could take out a sewer map and tell somebody why their sewer's backing up, and there's a bunch of other, but we can't tell them something intelligently about their power infrastructure because we don't know specifically. So we have to educate ourselves, and we're going to ask our utility to help us do that. We held an emergency community meeting of the 1st and 2nd Ward residents, which brought out over 300 residents looking for answers and guidance. I'd like to thank everyone who attended and for your collective understanding. There was frustration, anger, and a desperate need for answers. As council and the city received information every day, we made it available to residents in several different ways. TV 36 for those who still had power and cable, and the internet for those with cable web and 3 and 4G service for their devices. I, along with other members of council and our police department, made constant state, county, and municipal information updates available on our personal web and social network pages and by visiting residents and households personally. To be commended are the efforts and professionalism of Linden's OEM, Linden Fire Department, Police Department, in fact, all the departments. Everyone who had to suffer through this event, I thank you. Residents, thank you. Also, the efforts and dedication of the Public Properties and Public Works Department. By the way, the DPW had their facility flooded out by a tidal surge. They maintained city services while clearing our streets, removing storm debris, and down trees beginning the day after the storm, and they are all to be commended. Council will hold a special meeting of the whole on December 11th to discuss the city's actions, response, readiness, and communications efforts, and liaison with our utilities and government entities before, during, and after the storm. The Technology Committee, Resolution 419 on the agenda allows for an amendment to the temporary capital budget for non-public safety computer and IT-related hardware and software. Total amount of money appropriated for the hardware and software were for traditional CPUs and individually installed software. The committee recommends, and we had discussion on it last night again, for the consideration of computer virtualization for its many advantages over replacing individual traditional CPUs. The committee this month will develop a practical needs assessment for a new updated municipal website, and I've spoken to Zach, and an RFQ is going to be prepared and will be sent out for a website development firm. The SID Committee, the Special Improvement District Committee, will meet tomorrow at 7 p.m. I had the opportunity to walk this past Saturday, walk the western side of Wood Avenue from West Elizabeth Avenue all the way to Henry Street, and I visited personally each business and spoke to all the business owners. I personally delivered a letter from SID regarding the future aggressive enforcement of existing ordinance number 12-61 relative to the placement of garbage by businesses and landlords on Wood Avenue. The downtown business district, according to many business owners, is visibly cleaner and more well kept, and that was good news to hear. Most of the businesses are also cooperating in the development of the SID website. Discussion relative to a vacant lot for possible additional parking will be discussed. And that should be a good meeting. I hope the 3rd Ward Councilman attends. 2nd Ward specific, West Elizabeth Avenue Flood Control Project. That has gone on a month longer than we had anticipated. I was reporting that that would be completed by the end of October. We are now at the end of November, and we still have the westerly roadway still unimproved. Paving of the easterly bound lanes have been completed. Curbing on the westerly bound lanes is completed, and that should be done within the next 2 weeks, I am told. Ordinance number 56-63 for introduction tonight is an amendment to allow for a 4-way stop intersection at DeWitt Street and West Henry Street. That is sorely needed, and I thank the traffic department for that. And also, we had scheduled, but it's going to be put off until early December, a public forum on neighborhood parking issues, specifically, but not solely, for transit parking infiltration, which affects wards 2, 3, and 6. With the help and cooperation of the police department, we are looking at the dates of 12/6 or 12/13 for a community public forum meeting to discuss and solicit feedback from residents on these issues affecting our certain selected streets. And we will deliver notices to homeowners personally with the meeting information. That's the end of my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Brown?
Thank you. First, I would like to congratulate the new 9th Ward Councilman. If anyone doesn't know who he is, he's the gentleman sitting over here in the black. So congratulations. Also want to congratulate our Board of Ed members. This was the first year that Board of Ed members ran in November. I see 2 in the audience. One is Archie, congratulations. The other is from the 3rd Ward, George Alvarez. So I'd like to say congratulations. I would like to thank all the public employees who stepped up during the storm. I know, it's redundant, but I was off during that week, and just coming into City Hall, visiting the police department, the fire department, you see how much work they're doing, how many hours that they're putting in. And with the public works, we always constantly talk about the public works, but I don't think sometimes we realize that, in my opinion, we have the best public works department in the state. I mean, I challenge anyone who says that. I mean, these guys, like Councilman Koziel said, their building was flooded, but most residents wouldn't even notice any interruption in their service, from anything from trash pickup to trees being cut down to garbage being picked up. I mean, our public works department, I have to say, is one of the best. Also, though, I want to thank the mayor. I mean, during that day, I think on Monday, as the mayor would probably say, he was out helping people, getting people out of homes. And during the whole week, I don't know if this guy went home at all. Every time we came to City Hall, I could have sworn he lost a few pounds, just the amount of time that he logged in. But the mayor did an excellent job. He did work great with the council, including myself, where I think on Tuesday, we rode around town just looking at some of the damage. And he worked great with the council in brainstorming, finding ways how we can communicate with the public, because that was a major issue. I know daily he was on the phone with PSNG trying to find out when we were going to get power. So again, I just want to say thank you and recognize the efforts that he's put through as well. And lastly, I just want to mention the residents. This does affect the 3rd and 4th Ward, but in case anyone who rides down Roselle Street, I'm being told that on Monday, November 26th, and on Tuesday, November 27th, weather permitting, that they will be repaving those roads. So just keep that in mind if you travel down Roselle, that they will be repaving that road. End of report.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Armstead?
Yes, Mr. President. First, I'd like to congratulate our newly elected councilperson, Armando Medina. Look forward to working with him. I'd like to also congratulate Councilman Chris Colibus on his reelection. And again, Mr. Alvarez, George, congratulations on your victory. And Archie, congratulations, Archie Struzella. One thing I will say about all those who run for office, who have run in this last election, I really believe they have the interest of our people at heart, and I think they're going to do a great job. I'd like to congratulate the people in the city, OEM, police department, the fire department, DPW, public property, and basically all departments in this town for stepping up during this storm. This is a serious storm. They said it's probably the largest storm that we've seen in the tri-state area within the last 100 years, and they all did an outstanding job. Now, we definitely have a lot to learn. We learned a lot through this storm. We learned what works and what doesn't work, and I think we need to take this storm and use it as something that we can learn from so that we can respond better in the future, and I believe that that's exactly what the city intends to do. We have set up a meeting for December 11th to try to figure out what we did right and what we can do better, and so any of the constituents in our communities, various neighborhoods, if you have any ideas, feel free to put them forth to our city, to your council persons, so that we can take it to our meeting. But I also wanted to just mention a particular group of people, and I think they did an outstanding job. They were down in the 7th Ward Recreation Center, and the 7th Ward, incidentally, was hit, I think, the hardest of all in the city, and I just want to congratulate them and thank them for their efforts. There's no question about the love for this city and their loyalty, and they did a great job, and unfortunately I don't have all their names, but they know who they are. Some of them are in the audience now, and they did an outstanding job, and very proud to have people like that in our city. Once again, just as a reminder, we all know, and I think all the cities in the area have pretty much taken the same position with regards to how we will handle things in the future. And just for the public's edification, there is a forum going to be held by the Rutgers Center for Government Services. Basically, it says the state of New Jersey and its cities and citizens recently suffered untold hardships as a result of this fall's encounter with Superstorm Sandy. There are a number of lessons learned that we can glean from Sandy, and we would like to create an opportunity to discuss these lessons. We invite you to attend the forum to hear from other managers to share your experience, thoughts, and lessons learned in the aftermath of the state's most devastating natural event, and that's going to occur Thursday, December 20th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. There is a fee associated, and I think that's more or less for government officials, and I will definitely say that I feel a few of us should attend that so that we can bring back whatever knowledge that they have back to our town, and we can take whatever knowledge that we've learned from this storm to them so they can take back to their towns. That being said, I'm going to move on with some of my more formal reports. I have the following licenses and permits and transcripts were issued in the city of Linden in the clerk's office during the month of October 2012. The fees received has been turned over to the treasurer of the city of Linden. You know what? Stop. Let's put these glasses on. There were 116 birth, death, and marriage transcripts. The city's revenue was $1,710. There were 29 marriage, civil, and union licenses for $87, and the state's revenue was $725. There were 9 miscellaneous revenues for $47.38. There were 8 bingo raffles for $160. There were 201 EDRS vital statistics for $3,600, and 2 burial permit fees for $10, with a grand total of $6,339.38. Next report we have is the City Clerk's Licensing Division has submitted its monthly report for the month of October 2012. The office issued 152 licenses and collected $5,087, and that's from Joan Turbot. We have, no, we don't have to make a motion for that, no. We have the Finance and Personnel Committee report. Approval is requested for the following personnel and finance actions. Oh, well, before I do that, as always, we allow the public to comment on any of the items on the personnel agenda. There are 4 items on our agenda with one additional, which has to do with the public defender's appointment. So if anyone would like to make any comment on any of the items on the Personnel and Finance Committee, you're welcome to do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll read the Personnel and Finance, Mr. Shoppy.
Item
item number 1, and this is a question for the police chief. Is he here?
To the chair. Mr. Sharp, your question.
Yeah, I'd like to know how many retirements are scheduled for 2013 within the police department?
I could answer that, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor.
We anticipate 18 retirements for next year.
And, Mr. Mayor, we're requesting here 6, only 6? That's only a third of what we're losing.
Well, again, now, we're not losing everybody on one specific date. They're being retiring on different dates, but you also have to understand that we do not have an unlimited budget either for 2013. We still have contractual obligations and health benefit obligations, et cetera. We're anticipating to get those 6 officers out of the academy by July 1st, and hopefully as the year progresses, we'll be able to start adding more officers. But again, it would be unrealistic for us to just put on 18 officers when they're making at a starting salary of between $40,000 and $45,000, not counting health benefits and dental, et cetera. So we're trying to alleviate the problem, but on the same time, keep an eye on the taxes that are going to impact our taxpayers also.
Now, come the next budget, which starts on July 1st, is it possible that this can go up to 8 maybe for the next class? Is it all possible that we could put it in our next budget? Due to we're losing 18 to 13, if we could possibly change that in July 1st into the next budget for 8 officers, possibly? Is it possible at all?
Mr. Sharp, I think that would be something for consideration for the next sitting government, after we reorganize.
Yes, I understand. I'm in agreement that we do need 6 for the next school, which begins on January 1st. I'm totally in agreement with that.
Thank you.
That's all.
Mr. Armstead?
Okay, are there any other questions regarding the personal finance report? Seeing none, I'll move for approval for the following finance and personnel actions. Number 1, in the police department, the approval for the police chief to begin conducting background investigations of the next eligible candidates of the civil service list. He is anticipating hiring 6 probationary police officers at December 18, 2012 council meeting. I move for approval and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemekaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Item number 2, in the police department, the change in status from per diem to full-time public safety telecommunicator trainee for Matthew Bermudez at an annual salary of $33,234, effective November 21st, 2012, to fill an existing vacancy. I move for approval and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemekaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Item number 3, the payment of bills totaling $990,122.50. The bills have been signed by the mayor, council president, and finance chairman, and a detailed check register and vouchers are on file in the clerk's office. Move for approval and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemekaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Item number 4, we are in receipt of the investments made by the city treasurer for the month of October at a rate of 0.25%. Move for approval and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemekaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
And last but not least, in the Office of the Public Defender, the appointment of Jenny Berlinski, ESQ, an annual prorated salary of $20,000 for the term November 21st, 2012 through December 31st, 2012 to fill an existing vacancy. I move for approval and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
No.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
No.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
No.
Sadowski?
No.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
No.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Mr. President, that concludes my reports.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Cosby Hurling.
Thank you. Okay. Congratulations, Councilman Colibus.
Thank you.
Re-election. Councilman-elect Medina. It's nice to meet you. Looking forward to working with you. Our Board of Education candidate. And we've already heard it. I'm like the fifth person now. But our city departments did an awesome job trying to get our city back into shape. So I want to thank every single one who was there, who came in, who stayed late. I also would like to thank my neighbors in the 5th Ward for coming to the aid of their neighbors. And our neighbors in the 5th Ward, we actually opened up our center on John Street as a charging station where there was no heat. At least we had some electricity. And we had neighbors make homemade soup, and high school students came and they made sandwiches. It was a community effort, and it was great to see. While most of us were out of power, we did the best that we could, and we did it as a community. The recycling committee, we actually are going to receive a $53,000 grant from the New Jersey DEP to help enhance our program, and I'm going to ask after the first of the year, we're going to have our recycling coordinator, Department of Public Works supervisors, and Mr. McDonald. We're going to come up with some ways that we can help to increase and enhance our program so we can earn more on our recycling program. From the engineering department, the annual community development public hearing was held on November the 7th. The city will be submitting 2 projects to the county, and it's going to happen next month. One is for the home improvement program, which is including our senior grants, and for resurfacing sections of Lexington Avenue, West Price Street, East Henry Street, Jackson Avenue, which actually was supposed to be done a couple of years ago, but they didn't do it, so we had to put it back on the list. Alberta Avenue and Emma Place. All the funds that are received will be available next October. Now that the storm and cleanup has passed, construction started on the improvements for Morningside Avenue, Lindiger Street, Highland Avenue, Verona Avenue, East Blanky Street, Cedar Avenue, Dill Avenue, and Woodland Avenue. All the concrete, manhole, and catch basin work should be done by the end of November. The engineering department will monitor the weather to determine if the milling and paving portions can be done in early December or postpone them until next spring. Have bad news to report. Unfortunately, the New Jersey Department of Transportation has notified us that the improvements to St. George's Avenue, which we were also excited about, have been postponed until March or April of next year. So we'll still have to be careful with the potholes and the lumps over there. Negotiation committee meeting has been scheduled for December the 12th. And we're going to get together and, again, prepare our focus for next year. All of our contracts are actually expiring next year, so we want to make sure that we have a focus, what things that we can negotiate in the best interest of our city employees and our city parents, the taxpayers. The Housing Authority, there are no more meetings scheduled for this year. However, the director's having her annual Thanksgiving feast for the residents. That's going to be held on Thursday, and I'll be stopping by to wish my neighbors in the towers a happy Thanksgiving. We did have some issues with our power outages, and just so everyone is clear, it's a public housing facility. They were a priority. Unfortunately, as Councilman Koziel said, we couldn't tell them exactly what was wrong and where the substation was or what the problem was, which was unique. They had half a block on, and then our towers, which was over 300 residents, were still out for several days. But we weathered the storm, they made it through, so that was a good thing. We have just received this information for anyone who was affected by Sandy and is seeking short-term or long-term housing. There's assistance available through the New Jersey Housing Resource Center, and there's a website. It is njhrc.gov, or you can contact them through a bilingual phone number, which is 877-428-8844. If you'd like to be a landlord who can provide housing, or if you yourself were affected and are looking for short or long-term housing. Before I finish, I want to just congratulate one of my neighbors too on passing the New York and the New Jersey State Bar. He's a local guy from Linden. I talked about him a couple of months ago for coming and talking to some of our youngsters. Elijah Johnson Jr., who passed the New York and New Jersey State Bar right here from Linden High School. I also want to congratulate another group of people who were elected. Might seem a little, small, but for these children, it was something that they worked hard for, and it's children at school for. They had a K-Kids election, and some of them were re-elected, and the others were newly elected officers. This is the Kiwanis kids, and these kids take pride, as does their director, Ms. Pacino. So congratulations to all the officers, including my son, the vice president of the K-Kids. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and finally, happy birthday to Derek. Not you, of course.
The other Derek.
My Derek Hurling.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Sadowski.
Thank you, Council President. Just a few things to get out of the way first. Congratulations to the people who ran in the election and won. Councilman Chris Calabas, newcomer Armando Medina, welcome here. We'll be sitting here and you could be buying coffee pretty soon. Also for the Board of Ed candidates, George Alvarez, Ray Topolesky, and Archie Spizzella. Congratulations, because it does take nerve to run. And win, lose, or draw, congratulations. Let me get some of the minor things out. They will be milling and resurfacing Cedar Avenue from Clinton to Woodlawn. Also resurfacing and milling Woodlawn Avenue from the highway to Union. Already they started with the sewers and that, so we're hoping after Thanksgiving they will start. Like I said, in the 6th Ward, we did have the tent city. And I still had, as of 2 days ago, people asking why they couldn't go to Tent City and eat and sleep and shower and so on. Tent City was just for the workers. It wasn't for any displaced people and so on and so forth. But I believe they are packing up already and going, but they did a great job. They only not went to Linden, they went to, out of state, Staten Island and so on. But this gave them a home spot. Let me just make sure. Okay, I would like to thank all the city workers who did a great job in the city. If you look around, we come out ahead, really, with what they did. Hope I get them all. That's the fire department, police department, OEM, public properties, DPW, whatever it is, they did a great job. I know the first couple of days when it was out, we had no, with the gas rationing, I rode around with a bicycle to get around, and they were out there cleaning up as fast as they could. So congratulations, because you did a great job. You got Linden back to work. Also, all to the Linden residents, you went through this, you are the heroes, putting up with the no electricity and so on and so forth. You were the heroes. Okay, the other thing that we come to is, which is pretty serious, is the flooding and the oil spill on Emma Place. I see we have a bunch of Emma Place residents here. I hope later, when the time comes, you could get up and discuss what it is, or whatever you want to talk. In the audience, we have Ms. Carol Ziegler from Phillips 66. When you get up to talk, if you have any questions, she is here to answer them. Like I said, we are working with Phillips 66 concerning the oil spill affecting the cemetery and the residents of Emma Place. One of their concerns is the cleanup. Also, the residents have approached me asking if the city will provide an expert inspection of the properties. As a result, I've asked the city engineering department and the city law department to look into this matter so that all the residents get the relief they are entitled to. As of tomorrow, I will be going around door to door myself, handing out some sheets that may help you. But maybe your questions will be answered tonight when you get up here to talk. But like I said, I'll be going around tomorrow, Emma Place, because they got hit real hard. They got the oil slick, just like in the Trumley Point. Also, I would like to thank the people who set up that station in Trumley Point with the food and so on. They did a tremendous job there, and I know residents from Emma Place, not only Trumley Point, went there. So once again, I'd just like to wish you all a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And like I said, if you have any questions, whatever it is, please give me a call. Maybe I can answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Sheehy.
Thank you, sir. I sincerely thank everyone that showed up in the 7th Ward to bail me out. I was hospitalized, and I got there, and I can't believe the support. I don't want to mention names because if you miss somebody's name, they get highly upset. But people came from all over this town down there that people didn't even know where these streets were. Irene Street, Arthur Street, Walter Street, Buchanan Street, Emma Place. A lot of people in town never even been on these streets or even heard of these streets, but they came down, and the way everyone pulled together as a unit, it was like an army. Within a day's time, the building was just filled with everything you could possibly need, and my thanks goes out to everyone. Please, I thank you so much for helping out and coming down there. It was more than incredible. The way everybody showed up and just came together as a unit and worked together, it was absolutely great. Thank you so very much. Why we don't see that, why it doesn't look like New Orleans or Staten Island is because the services that we have in this town, between the fire department, police department, OEM, the property and grounds, everybody worked together as a unit. And they came together. That's why it doesn't look like New Orleans, because the public works was coming through every 2-3 hours, just picking up debris after debris. The firemen were out there. They were pumping cellars as fast as they can. And the firemen that were off duty were there. These guys that live in Linden showed up, and they were just asking, what can they do? Knocking on doors and going to every single house. It was incredible the way all our services pulled together. Our social service director, Mrs. Tango, was there all night too. You know, people forget about this. They forget about the sewer plant. The sewer plant stayed up and running because these guys were out there all night. Nobody had a problem flushing their toilet, but who would think of that? Because these men and women were down there working their tails off to keep that sewer plant up and going. And I got to give special thanks to Mrs. Yamakaitis. She had enough of her own problems, and she was down there, you know, every single day and night, and the mayor was there. You know, and the mayor, people were bad-mouthing the mayor, but the man can't be everywhere. He was down there and sent me home one night at 11 o'clock, and he was still down there. He couldn't go to every single house in his town, but he was out there, and his concerns and his heart and soul was into this. And somebody has to call the shots in this town. Somebody has to say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Were they all the right calls? Probably not. You're always going to have problems. But we had a man to step up to the plate and make the calls, and I'm glad that he was in charge and he was there. He took charge. Somebody has to be in charge, and he did it, and I recommend him for doing an outstanding job on that. And let me get back to my regular report, but I sincerely thank everybody. Thank you very much for coming down and supporting and coming together and working together. It was absolutely incredible. And I'd like to thank the Halloween Parade Committee. Everybody, you know, our Halloween parade, we were gonna have the best Halloween parade I think we ever had. And, you know, you know, we had marching bands, every school had a float. It was gonna be incredible, but again, you know, we got slapped in the face, but I appreciate all the hard work that the people did. It was incredible. We met every week, and I take my hat off to everyone that participated in there. And anyone in the 7th Ward that had substantial damage, heavy damage done to your house, please contact the tax assessor's office, please. And we're working on the rec center in the 7th Ward. We're gonna, after the first of the year, we'll be working on some programs to try to have it open like one night a week. And, you know, because while we're at the rec center, everybody was saying, you know, why don't we use this facility more? And it was a good idea. And Mr. McDonald agrees with that. So we will be, you know, after the holiday season, we will be working on programs at the rec center. And I'd like to thank everyone for the cards and gifts that I get. I don't know, a couple people must like me in this town because, man, I'm getting cards and gifts from everywhere. It's awful. It makes you feel good anyway. That I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I experienced firsthand our emergency services. The day after the storm, you know, with all that debris in the roadway and wires down and traffic everywhere, the firefighters of the city of Linden got me to JFK Hospital in less than 10 minutes. And that debris, they did an excellent job. And I think I have their names right because I thought I was checking out in the back of that ambulance, but I think it was firefighter Ronsky and firefighter Montez. Thank you. They about saved my life. And I'll report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Sheehy. I know you had a rough time. Mrs. Yamakaitis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to start off with thanking our city departments for the outstanding efforts they put forth through that storm. Our police, our fire department, Public Works, they were out there during that height of that storm. I think one of the worst parts for me was I had several residents, including my mother from another ward, with the power down, a lot of people are on life support for oxygen. When you get this call, you can hardly understand what somebody's saying. They're saying they can't breathe, they need oxygen. What can you do to help? Our fire department was out there delivering oxygen to, after the power was restored, I received many phone calls from them saying how, you know, thank you. They saved their lives, you know, getting there. And like I said, it was a joint effort between all the departments. I mean, our fire trucks were out in that storm. They got stuck in the floods. Public Works had to help get them out. So it was a combined effort by all the departments. And I also need to acknowledge Mary Ellen Tango. She came through for the 7th and 8th Ward, and I believe the entire city, to help with our centers as well as the volunteers. So thank you, everyone. Our city workers volunteered their time off duty. We had firemen going door to door delivering dinners. Dispatcher I had helping, that had a background check to help keep the center running in the school because we needed somebody with a background check. I mean, they really stepped up and went above and beyond the call of their job description. So thank you, everyone. Okay, I'd like to start off with my Board of Health report. Just a reminder again, the seasonal flu shots are still available from the Health Department. Contact the Health Department office at 474-8409 to make arrangements to receive your shot. Flu shots are recommended for residents 50 years and older or those who have chronic illnesses. And they will also have blood pressure and diabetic screening program, which will be held on Friday, December 14th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. in the courtroom in City Hall. Last Monday was Veterans Day, and it was officially recognized on the calendar. Coming on the back heels of Hurricane Sandy and people returning to work and school, it was nice to see so many residents come out to our 8th Ward Monument once again and remember our veterans. Thank you to all of them and, of course, to our veterans. As many of my colleagues mentioned, Council will be having a special meeting on December 11th to discuss the recent storm and concerns with the breakdown in the communication systems in our city and getting information out. Our 911 system, reverse 911, we had difficulties, Comcast, so we need to come together and discuss these issues. Our OEM and other departments will be having a report to Council at this special meeting regarding their findings. I have expressed my concern as well as those expressed by many of you to our governing body and plan to pursue this in further detail at this special meeting. Many of you have asked me to have a community meeting regarding this to further discuss this. I will be planning one in the near future. I will get a date out to you, but I'd like to have this meeting with our city officials first. I would also like to give a special thank you to Sinai Christian Academy for being such a great neighbor in the 8th Ward and working with me in the city in establishing a heating center with hot meals, heat, charging stations. Principal Kathy Salardino, Reverend Danny, and the other staff that opened their doors and hearts to many of us. There were so many people with cities, school clubs, county employees, restaurants that came out to assist. As a community, we really became stronger, and we really like to say thank you for providing us the shelter we needed. One thing that Jack had mentioned, and speaking to the principal, Salardino, many of the residents are asking, you know, despite the hardship of not having power, they all want to get together and socialize again, so we will be working on some upcoming events in the future. Okay. I also received notification from our Public Works Department that leaf pickup in the Cranford area section of the 8th Ward will begin tomorrow. I also have leaf bags. If anyone would need some, please give me a call. I would also like to thank the many residents who have been very patient after this storm with the disruption in their garbage and other services that Public Works usually provides. Our incinerator was down for a week. As many of you did not know, you know, the phone calls I received, their garage was severely damaged and flooded out during this hurricane. This is why when you call, you're not getting an answer on the old line. As many of the families here tonight and in Tremley and the Emma Place area of Linden can relate to, they are up and operating, but are also displaced and working out of an overcrowded garage where many of their trucks cannot fit. Their schedule is getting back on track, but again, thank you for your patience. They've really stepped up to the plate and are getting things done. And just a reminder, with Thanksgiving 2 days away, many of the storm victims lost their food during the storm, and the 2 weeks following with no electricity. The food pantries are running extremely low. Okay, many families do not have money to go and replace the food that they lost. So we asked, if you'd like to donate non-perishable foods, please donate to our links. All right. I would also like to extend my congratulations to the newly elected officials in both the Board of Education and the city, and wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. President. As all of my colleagues had indicated, tremendous amount of thanks go out to all of the department heads, all of the departments in the city of Linden. You know, many times in the past, we were quick to criticize, but I think we have to acknowledge that during this immense storm, the so-called Frankenstorm, the superstorm, something that we've never, ever experienced, all of our people worked together. Not only our department heads and critical service units, but Lindenites came together too. Believe me, a number in my ward were without power because the 9th Ward, along with the 10th Ward, has the most trees, and most of the damage we got there were from fallen trees going over power lines and so forth. And I did receive numerous calls, but the people were extremely patient. They were. No one was jumping through the phone or whatnot. They knew what the situation was, and they knew that I nor the mayor had the so-called magic switch to turn on the power. So all of these people came together, and I guess this was a test of how well we can do. And I think under the circumstances, we did rather well. I want to also mention that in the Ninth Ward, I had been out there immediately after the storm and pretty much every single day, knowing what the people had gone through. There were many, many streets that were blocked, wires down, trees down, streets were impassable. I just want you to know that I took another tour through the Ninth Ward yesterday as well as this morning, and I'm proud to say that most of the areas have been cleaned up. There are no more power outages, one low-hanging wire, but we're going to have that taken care of. Most of the wood from the fallen trees has been taken care of. The only things that remain to be done right now are the large tree stumps. They're humongous. They have to be removed, and they will be removed. So I ask you to be kindly continue your patience with that. I've also discussed with our engineering department, we're scheduled for sidewalks and curbs that we normally do each year through an outside contractor. This will go on weather permitting. In addition to that, the Highland Avenue paving, which hasn't been done yet, but again, will go on weather permitting. So we'll see exactly where we end up with that. Also, the Hawk Rise walkway had sustained considerable damage. Some of it has been cleared. I would just advise you all, please do not go down there. First of all, you're going to have a difficult time getting in there. Spectra Energy, as you know, is installing their 48-inch pipeline, natural gas line, and they've been pretty much absorbing the use of Range Road. So kindly don't go there and get confused with it. But we will get back at the walkway as well as everything else within the city. It's going to take some time, so be patient. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Armando Medina, who will eventually sit in this chair starting January 1. Armando, you did a great job. Congratulations. And I'm sure my colleagues will be looking forward to having you. In addition to that, we have 3 candidates who were very successful for the Board of Education. Congratulations, Arch. Congratulations, Mr. Alvarez. Pretty much that concludes it. All I can say is this. I think we have this Thanksgiving something to really be thankful for. Thankful that we're all here. Thankful that we've made it through this storm. May I wish you a very, very wonderful Thanksgiving and a safe one. Thank you very much. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Councilman Frazier, and I know the entire council is going to miss you. You're a stellar gentleman. You wear many hats. You filled in for President Pro Tem. You filled in for the mayor. You're a Renaissance man. I'm going to truly miss you, your common sense. Councilman Kaczynski.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. From the Construction Code and Lighting Committee, the Construction Code Office issued 162 permits and 120 certificates for October and collected $41,821 in fees. Council recently passed a resolution that allows for many of the fees to be waived in relation to work being done to Superstorm Sandy. So please make sure when you go for these permits to inform and talk to the construction code officials about the reasoning behind your permit, and they'll be able to work with you from there. From the Fire Committee, the Fire Prevention Bureau collected $4,353 in October. And I'd also like to read a portion from a letter the city received from the residents on Academy Terrace regarding the fire department. We want to say thank you to you and your wonderful ambulance and fire department. It gets into some specifics, which I'll skip, but it ends with, I could not have handled everything by myself. We are proud to say we live in Linden with the best care any town could offer. Thanks to all of you, and God bless you. And the note specifically mentions firefighters Jose Espinal and Brian Majeski, stating specifically, they were wonderful, they were so caring and compassionate to me. And as I said last month, this is something that we as a city should be proud of, not just the fire committee, not just the fire department, not just the mayor, not just any of us. It should be the whole city, because this is where your tax dollars are going. And when the way they're spent, and if it's spent in a way that provides help, assistance, compassion to our fellow residents, you should take pride in knowing that you made that happen. This is something that our tax dollars go to, and these types of letters it should reverberate in all of us. And of course, speaking for myself, I know the fire committee, we would also like to note that the extraordinary work of the emergency services, as my colleagues have already said, during this recent storm. The fire department was no different. Went above and beyond on many calls, many calls, to ensure the safety and security of our residents. I am proud, and I know the committee's proud of the efforts of each and every firefighter who was on the scene during this storm. It's something that it makes the city work. Simple as that. It makes the city work. There were also so many companies and individuals that stepped up to assist our city. You know, there are just so many, as Councilman Sheehy and Councilwoman Yamakaitis noted. There's just so many that did, so it's hard to name any, but I would like to offer a sincere thank you to everybody, for anybody that even did it in private that nobody knows about, that just helped a neighbor. Thank you, because that's really, again, how we weather these storms. You know, the fire department can't be at every house. A council person can't be at every house. The mayor can't be at every house, but every neighbor knows a neighbor. And this is where we can try to fill in those cracks, those needs. So I thank everybody sincerely for any help that they did for their neighbors to really help the city of Linden in general. While the 10th Ward specifically didn't face severe flooding, we did have issues, as Councilman Frazier noted, with the fallen trees and lack of power. And as a result, it was lack of communication, much like the rest of the city. So if you had a landline, you know, and the wire went down, you had no phone. If you had a wireless phone and you lost power, you had no phone. And if you had a cell phone provider like myself that had towers damaged, you didn't have a phone. As we talked about, December 11th, we're having a message talk about what went right, what we could do better. And I'm strongly going to suggest, maybe as counterintuitive as it sounds, a step back in technology for certain situations like this, where drop-off points for flyers, word-of-mouth change, kind of info relay teams, things like this. And I look forward to my colleagues and the residents to come up with ideas that maybe we can all use and work, because we all lived through it, and we all had our own situations. So I would like to also thank the DPW, because as we heard, they're in a very tough spot right now, but I want to commend them for the work in the 10th Ward, specifically removing trees. I know when a tree is in front of your house or on your road, the crews can never get there fast enough. I know that. I had 3 trees on my road. But they were just constantly moving and cutting and moving and cutting. They were moving around. And there was a method to the madness, you know, to open up the different lanes, different ways for ambulance, different emergency vehicles, and then the side streets and so forth. And it's important to note they're still working. So the requests that I received, rest assured I passed them along. And they're trying to get back on track with everything. They're going to handle the most dangerous ones first, a hanging limb, a cracked limb, things like that. They're going to get taken care of. If there's a limb that's just there and needs to be trimmed, it's going to put on hold for a little while. So I appreciate your patience and the patience of everyone in the ward in general. And as I made my way through our neighboring communities, there's still some trees and wires down. And I think that really makes you grateful for that we weren't hit even harder, and that our departments, the mayor and his office, the police, the fire, the DPW, public properties, OEM, Board of Health, social services, all down the line, that they were able to handle the issues that did arise. Maybe not perfectly, but when, you know, in a vacuum, everything can be better. But comparatively speaking, we really, the city worked extremely hard, and I'm extremely proud of all the employees. And as we move forward in this Thanksgiving Day, it truly makes me thankful that, you know, in my times of extreme frustration, my lack of the communication ability, the lack of being able to have power, because I didn't have power for a long time myself, the lack of being able to help residents that need help quickly. You know, there's an opportunity to actually witness truly selfless people that were out there doing things. And put things in perspective for myself. Again, I want to thank them. And I hope that we never have a situation like this ever again in the city. But it helps me rest a little bit better to know that people in the city still care they all still care. And I would finally just like to congratulate Councilman Colibus on his re-election in the 1st Ward, Councilman-elect Medina in his election in the 9th Ward, and our Board of Education members, Archie Strazella, George Alvarez, and Ray Topoleski. Congratulations to everyone, and congratulations moving forward. And my regards to those that ran and didn't win. I know it's very, very tough, and to put your name in the hat is something that's extremely admirable. So I'd like to thank you guys for putting your names in, and congratulations on winning. And moving forward, I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. God bless, and if I can be a help, 908-463-9234. And if that is still quirky, email me, please, Kaczynski, that's working, AKUCZYNSKI@linden-nj.org, and I will be sure to get back to you as soon as I can with any help. Thank you, Mr. Council President. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilman. I think the unsung hero in this whole tragedy was the anonymous people that helped the neighbors with the little tiny things went and banged on the doors for the elderly, and you'll never know who they are. And that's what Linden's all about. Mr. Mayor, you have a report for us?
Yes, thank you, Council President. First, I'd like to remind everybody that even after this serious disaster that we just went through, Christmas is coming upon us, and Linden has its annual tree lighting ceremony December 7th at 6 p.m. in front of City Hall, where we have different events, and we have Santa Claus coming on a fire truck where he could meet our children. We'll retire down to the JTG Center, where we have a bunch of goodies, and we have gifts and pictures with Santa Claus for our kids. That doesn't cost the taxpayers 1 penny. It's supported by the Cultural Committee and donations from our corporate sponsors and friends, and the President, Molly Lentz, worked so hard, and I guarantee you that this is going to be a quality event like it is every year. So again, it's December 7th, 6 p.m. in front of City Hall, so that we could greet Santa and have some holiday cheer to kind of hopefully could forget some of this troubles that the city went through. I'd also like to mention that yesterday, our Linden Interfaith Council of Churches, Links, food pantry gave out 150 turkeys to needy families in the city of Linden. The fire department stood up and was counted extremely well. They donated money. They were there to help, along with the chairman of the Linden Links, Joe LaPlatka, and his many volunteers. So again, this is just another example of how Linden helps Linden residents in need. We've also, in regards to the disaster of Superstorm Sandy, I'm not going to belabor the point. Everybody heard the council persons and the heroic efforts of our city workers, but I just want to let everybody know I've never been more proud of our city workers. I was out that first night, all night long, with the fire department, police department, Office of Emergency Management. Our dispatchers were inundated with calls. We were out, it was totally pitch black. There was not a street light on. There was no traffic lights. The only traffic light that survived the whole storm was the traffic light at Stiles and St. George for some reason. There were sheds flying around in the wind. There was trees being knocked down over the power lines. Power lines were sparking. We couldn't tell whether there was a power line in a tree or not. Again, a heroic effort by our first responders. And then the next day, another heroic effort by all our city workers. They came into City Hall. City Hall was open. They all had personal problems themselves. Many had no electricity. I spent 10 days without electricity, but that was a minor, and I repeat, a minor inconvenience compared to the poor homeowners on Irene, Walter, Buchanan, Arthur, Madison, and a special wish for the best to the homeowners on Emma Place, who in only 14 months ago suffered a disaster with Hurricane Irene, and again another disaster with Hurricane Sandy. My hearts go out to these people. I don't know what I could say to ease your pain. We are there to help you, and hopefully, and I know we will recover, and with the City Hall and your emergency services are there to assist you. I also want to thank Phillips 66. They provided manpower to assist us during the emergency to help clear trees and brush, and that was very much appreciated. As was said by all the council persons, everybody worked together, and it was an effort that got us through this serious disaster, and I don't think people realize how serious it was. The tidal surge of 15 foot came up to the turnpike on Southwood Avenue. We couldn't get across the turnpike bridge on Southwood Avenue. The next day, when we went out there, literally boats on the foot of Southwood Avenue by American Cyanamid. All the major corporations took major hits. Fortunately, as Councilman Sheehy said, the Linden Roselle Sewage Authority, which was a serious concern if their generators went out and sewage would be overflowing and backing up in our toilets, that never happened. The incinerator, which burns our garbage, that went out because of no electricity. We couldn't collect garbage. When we did, we didn't have no place to put it. Fortunately, in about 3 or 4 days, the electricity was restored to critical infrastructures such as the incinerator, and then we picked up normal garbage. Again, I agree, part of our issue was communications. We never realized the extent of that problem when you don't have electricity. There was no phones. We couldn't use reverse 911 because most phones were out. LindenTV, even though we got it up and running on generator in 2 days, very few people had access to it because they didn't have electricity. I think, as the councilman in the 10th Ward said, we got to go back to some old-fashioned technology, such as a radio station where people could have batteries, because TV is no good without electricity. But if we have a radio station, we could at least broadcast to the citizens some of the issues. And that's what we did Saturday. Again, each ward, we had designated times to meet in the various schools or public buildings to explain, and it was amazing how the word got out via mouth, how many people showed up so that we could explain to them the problems that we were having and the extraordinary efforts that were being done to try to restore electricity and assist the homeowners. One quick disaster was on Emma Place, as I said, the second time in 14 months they got flooded out. We had a woman have a heart attack on Emma Place. There was a major tree down. It was flooded by 4 to 5 feet, and there was a live wire in the flood. We couldn't get to the woman for 3 or 4 hours until the water subsided. Fortunately, she was able to hold on, and we were able to get her to a hospital. So these are the type of instances that the first responders had to deal with that evening when the storm hit us at the worst. We lost our Public Works building. 4 workers were in our Public Works building off a lower road when 25 minutes before that, there was absolutely no water in the building. 25 minutes later, there was 4 foot of water, and they had to get out in about 5 feet of water by driving a front-end loader with 3 guys in a bucket truck lifted up just to get out of the building. So again, these were all instances that it's just impossible to plan for, and you got to work around as the situation occurs. And with our DPW, I'm sure many people are getting frustrated. They don't realize that the DPW building with 4 or 5 feet of water is out of commission. We have no DPW building. Moved everybody out to our municipal garage, which is further down Lower Road. Therefore, if you call 8666, you're not going to get a call. You're not going to get somebody answering the phone, because the phone service is out along with the electric service at that building. So I know people are getting frustrated thinking nobody's picking up at DPW, but it's because our phone service is out. But I guarantee you that, number one, you could call 8610, that's our municipal garage, 474-8610. That's where Public Works now is temporarily situated. And come Monday or Tuesday, the latest, we're going to have the 8666 number, 474-866 number, back in operation and moved over to the municipal garage. So again, you got to realize that we are still working under certain emergency conditions, but again, everybody did a Herculean task to provide the services that were necessary to rebound from this superstorm. And again, to the people who had their homes flooded out, I could only say that the City of Linden is here. We will try to help as much as possible. FEMA is in town. They've met with us. I've had conference calls with the governor's office. I've had conference calls with PSE&G. There's a phone number 211, which is a hurricane information hotline. We also have a place that you could send checks or money orders to. Send it to my office, and that's what people need now, cash. Cash is king. Send a check or money order made out to Links, L-I-N-C-S, and put on there Hurricane Sandy. We will then have a certain fund set up to help strictly Linden people that are hurt by the storm. And lastly, I just want to remind everybody that this was a situation that no matter how well you could prepare for it, you're always going to run into problems. And it's something with which we're going to try to study and learn from, but as far as I'm concerned, we had a Herculean job, and our city workers stood up and performed well. And lastly, I'd just like to thank the Sinai Christian Academy. That's old school number 3. That's a private school. They opened up that school as a crisis center on Greer Avenue to serve the community. Michelle Yamakaitis was a strong part of that. I know Rashana Cosby Hurling in the 5th Ward, Councilwoman Hurling, opened up the multi-purpose center, was serving food. And Jack Sheehy in the 7th Ward, I had to literally throw him out 2 days after getting 2 stents in him. He was still there at 11 o'clock trying to help the people of his 7th Ward, and I literally threw him out. And I'm going to mention just 4 people I see here, although there was many, many more volunteers. There's Matt, Felice, George, and Gretchen. They volunteered countless hours at that 7th Ward Recreation Center, helping the people of Tremley Point and Emma Place. And they weren't the only ones, but they're the ones here now. And I'd just like to commend everybody, all the volunteers, all the city workers, and all the city residents. We got through it. We're a resilient community, and we're going to rebuild. And again, I just want to let everybody know how proud I am as the mayor to be your mayor and see the extraordinary efforts that everybody contributed to this great city. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you missed one person, that being yourself. I spent some time within the office fielding calls, and every call was different. It was like machine guns, and your staff took the brunt. Janice Brown, I think Renee Banks, and yourself. I was so impressed. You did your leadership job. Thank you very much. We're going to move into resolutions. Uh, 2012-385 through 2012-419. Public comments will be permitted without specific resolutions to be removed from the consent approval. Please read the synopsis of the resolutions, which have been prepared by the city clerk's office. Each is informative and self-explanatory. However, if you wish to address a specific resolution, the council will entertain questions. Does anyone wishes to remove a resolution 385 through 419 on my right? Pat Hero? 391. 396, 397, 414, 417. Anyone else on my right? In the center? On my left? In the center? Mr. Sharpie. $388, $389. I missed that last one. $388, $389, $390, $414. That concludes? No. You're done, all right. In the center, Mrs. Malik. 389, 390, 398. Thank you. On my left? 415. 415. Does that conclude your report? Anyone else wish to make comments on? Okay. I'll ask for a motion on the remainder.
Yes, Mr. President, I move for approval of resolutions 385 through 419, with the exception of resolution 388, 389, 390, 391, 396, 397, 398, 414, 415, and 417, and request a second.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Mr. Colbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, and all but 415. Abstain. Mr. Sharpie, 388. Would you come up, please?
Yes, this public defender, Mr. Cooper and Mohammed, and all these, are these attorneys, practicing attorneys recognized by the state? Are their offices located here in the city of Linden?
Mr. Hudak.
All the public defenders, Mr. Cooper's in town, Mr. Jahala's not, they're contracted. We put out RFQs, receive bids, and we appoint them accordingly.
Now, due to this is coming up in the next January, now, this public defender, I think he should be out of an attorney who resides in this city of Linden. And seems like all these years you've been going under your people, under these so-called favoritism that you have.
Mr. Jaffe, I don't know what you mean by my people and favoritism. These contracts are put out by bid, they are selected by bid. I will tell you, two of the law firms on there, I'm not even familiar with until they bid.
Mr. Sharpie, we have a vendors list that they go off of, and they qualify for that.
But I think this vendors list from now to the near future should come off. This vendor list should come off presidents, attorneys that reside in this city. This is our tax money that pays for this. We don't want no one from outside our city. We have attorneys in this city who pay taxes in this city, so they should have the right to have first privilege to be public defenders.
If they bid on the job, they're on the list.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I'm sorry, John or even Joe, I mean, if we can get clarification, Mr. Sharpie, what happens is that when people go out to bid, when we go out to bid and we get bids back, we can't discriminate based off where that business is located. That's against the law. Alexis or...
The bidding process, this is a contract, not employees. We put out at the beginning of every year for various positions, RFQs for jobs. They are put on, attorneys in town put on them, attorneys from out of town put on them, other contractors and other positions also bid on RFQs for those positions. This year, we only had 3 outside firms put in for assistant public defender, acting when we needed it. All 3 firms have been rotated among cases. As I said, noted, the one firm from Elizabeth, I was not even familiar till they put in.
But I'm saying that top should come from within. That's the only thing I'm asking for.
Council President, can I respond?
Mr. Mayor, yes.
You're confusing contracts with employees. We do have a personnel policy that says that we hire city employees first. That's for employees. When it comes to contracts, that's open up to a wide range of outside sources. But we do have a personnel policy that any city employee is the first one to be considered for hiring. If there's no city employees that qualify, then we go to outside sources. So we do have that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Malik, would you care to come up and address 89 and 90? And then we'll have a vote on 388, 389, and 390.
All my questions on the resolutions pertain to the same concern or same issue. Can someone explain why we have multiple public defenders listed here, but for multiple times? Why don't we just say the public defender, and then how much money will be allocated to that? Can you explain why we...
What happens is we have a staff public defender. When there is a conflict or when there are multiple defendants, in other words, we have a case where there's 2 or 3 defendants in the same case, well, due to conflict of interest, he can't represent all defendants. We then have to contract with, off the vendor list, another attorney to represent that, because the same attorney can't represent 3 or 4 defendants. They have divergent interest.
Maybe you're missing my point. Like, for instance, number 38 and 39 is the same individual. Why don't you just kind of lump them together? Likewise, for the individual on 398, he's also on 387.
Because they're contracted by case. They're not contracted by, they're not,
All right.
we just don't contract. In other words, when they're needed, they're appointed to a particular case and they're contracted for that case by resolution.
So this is all case-specific when they're mentioned here?
Correct.
Gotcha, thank you.
Thank you. Ask for a motion on 388, 389, and 390.
Move for approval for 388, 389, and 390, and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
He's excused from...
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Harling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
I vote no on 388, yes on 389, and yes on 390.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. On 391, Pat Hero.
Isn't the first time I've been up here on this issue, won't probably be the last. When the private sector redevelops, they pay for their own attorneys. Unfortunately, when the city of Linden or any other public entity gets involved, the taxpayer foots the bill. Right now, the total expenditures paid to date under the original contract is $85,932.84. That, of course, doesn't include the law firm that we had before we had McManaman in Scotland. That is why government does not belong in the redevelopment business, and I hope you remember that in the future. Thank you.
Motion, please, on 391.
Yes, Mr. President, I move for approval of Resolution 391 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
He's
Brown?
excused from vote.
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Crosby Harling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
No.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. Pat Hero on 396.
If it's okay with you, I'm going to batch 396 and 397 because they basically deal with the same issue. Resolution authorizing permission to install a red light photo enforcement system at Route 109 and Avenue C, and then the other one is Route 109 and Morse's Mill Road. I have a little problem with red light cameras. Not that I necessarily get affected by them, I don't drive, don't have a car. However, I have a friend of mine who does. In fact, she got a ticket at a red light camera. Problem is, she wasn't running a red light. If you notice, when you're a pedestrian, you have that little sign, it flashes how much time you have to cross the street. You know whether you can make it or not. The problem with a red light camera is, you don't know when the green is going to turn yellow, or amber as the case may be, I guess they call it amber. And then it turns red. Obviously, it is wrong to run a red light. But the fact is, you don't know when it's going to turn from green to amber, and all of a sudden you could be in the middle and it's like, oh my God, it's amber, they flaps my picture, got a ticket. That's what happened to my friend. My friend's a good individual. She just figured, oh, I'll just pay the ticket. She didn't want to fight it. A lot of people do that. I wish they didn't. I wish they fought it. Because I think that's wrong. And I think that we are trying to get more and more money from more and more people instead of, like I said, we can't afford to raise taxes because people can't afford it. So this is maybe a way of doing it. I personally think it's wrong, not to mention the constitutional issues involving that too. But, so, I would hope that some people will vote no on this because I don't think we should make our money on the backs of innocent motorists. Thank you. Guilty ones, yes. Innocent ones, no.
Council President, can I say one quick thing? And
Yes,
then I'm
Mayor.
gonna let the Sergeant handle the rest of it.
Sergeant?
First off, the red light cameras do not give summonses to individuals when they are in the middle of the intersection and a yellow light occurs. You only get a red light summons when you break the plane in front of the intersection and it's red and your tires break that plane. That's when you get a red light summons. We're not there. Yes, I'll admit we make money on the red light cameras, but the issue is that if you don't violate the law, you won't get a ticket, you won't get a summons, and we'll have safer intersections. And with that, I'd just like to turn it over to Sergeant Popolski from our Traffic Bureau.
I can personally guarantee you, as administering this program, which I have since its inception, that there's nobody that got a ticket for a yellow light. It doesn't happen in this town. Everybody that gets a ticket for a red light camera is issued by a police officer in the city of Linden that works for me. And it's usually not even a close call. So if you're in the middle of the intersection, you're not going to get a ticket. Our line, defining line in Linden, is the stop bar, which is the line at the intersection, and your back tires. If you're sitting in the middle of the intersection and the light turns red because you want to make a left, you're not going to get a ticket. We don't even get a picture of it to refuse it. It doesn't happen.
Sergeant, quick question. Why did these two lights get chosen?
They chose for the crash reports, fatal accidents, and summonses issued. I'm sure most of you are aware that the domestic trades entrance, which is the Morse's Mill intersection, is extremely dangerous intersection. We have some years with 5 to 6 fatal crashes in that intersection. Avenue C is another one because if it's a long road from Rowway till we hit that Avenue C intersection. We get a lot of crashes there. So that's why we applied for those two. We issue a lot of citations there, and the state says absolutely it's no problem. We can have those red light cameras.
Councilman Brown?
Ms. Harry, you hit on something that caused me to vote no last time on this, and that's a matter of the appropriations or the money that's being generated from this being used in our budget for making money. And since then, and this is what I've advocated, and Mike has been helping, and the mayor as well as the police chief, is the money that's being made off this, not so much going back into things such as furniture, but putting that back into the traffic department. So if you go through town, Mike has been able to buy some of these pedestrian stop signs, things like that. So you're taking money from, let's just say, Route 9 to be able to fix some of the traffic issues within town. I mean, that's why I'm going to support the bill this time, because, yes, you're making money. I don't approve it being used for non-essential things, but if it's going back into traffic-related issues to improve safety, I mean, I support it that way.
Thank you. Motion on 396 and 397.
Yes, Mr. President, I move for approval of resolutions 396 and 397. Request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Kozio?
No.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Harling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
No.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. Mrs. Malik, 398. Thank you. Motion, please, on 398.
Move for approval of resolution 398 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Kozio?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Harling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 414, Pat Hero. Sure. And would you come up to the mic? She's gave her time for you, and state your name.
Yes, good evening. My name is Ann Babineau. I'm here on behalf of Morris Linden. I have been before you in your previous sessions on this question of whether the ISP area is in need of redevelopment. This council has a different responsibility than the planning board. This council wears two hats. This council, I know how it's presently constituted, but you know how a council works. When a council makes a commitment on behalf of a city by entering into a contract, contracts are alive and go from council to council. They don't end when there's a change in the makeup of this council. The council of this city declared a redevelopment area in the ISP area in 2002, and in fact, I think it was very well declared and very well substantiated by the rather dilapidated buildings that were there at the time that you were well aware of when you designated it. You owe a duty to this city to maintain that redevelopment area designation, and that is the question before you tonight. You owe a duty to the city because the only way that this area is going to get redeveloped, the only way you can be sure it's going to get redeveloped, is if you have a redevelopment area designation in place. You also, however, owe a duty to the party that you entered into a contract with, and that is Morris Linden. We were treated with disdain throughout the entire planning board proceeding, as though we were some kind of reprehensible organization. You know Morris Linden well, and you know that that is not true. You know that this city council entered into a redevelopment agreement with Morris because they were very pleased with their performance in the airport redevelopment project. And long before they entered into the agreement with Morris, they recognized that there were problems in the ISP redevelopment area. In 2002, you designated it as a redevelopment area, and by 2004, you determined that it was appropriate to enter into a contract with our client, Morris Linden. Now, that contract imposes a duty on the city to kind of work with Morris Linden to get the project done. And I'm not going to repeat everything that I have put into a letter that I have delivered to you.
I have 1 minute for you to go.
But you have a duty to forbear from taking action that will impair Morris's completion of the project, and you have a responsibility to do all things necessary to keep the redevelopment agreement in effect. Given the facts that are in the record that came to you, and it's an extensive record, I'll admit, I think you have a responsibility to review that record and convince yourself about whether, as we strongly believe, detrimental conditions still exist there, underground conditions that are environmentally contaminated, that have subsurface soil problems, and it's cut off from the rest of the city. which you already found was the case with regard to the adjacent property of DuPont. This same council found that. It would certainly lack compliance with your contract.
Thank you.
If I could just finish my sentence.
Please.
It would lack compliance with the contract if you accept the inadequate record that was sent up to you where the Union County Improvement Authority, your own redevelopment entity, was not allowed to present its planner and its expert. I thank you for your time.
Mr. Sharpie? 414.
Mr. Council President, just as Ms. Babineau had problems understanding the role, I'd like
Speak into the microphone, please.
Sure. I would like to respond on 414, if I could.
Do you have any objections, Mr. Sharpie? Would you state your name, please?
John Bonacore of the firm of McCurdy and Riskin in Morristown. I'm the counsel to the property owner, Linden Property Holdings.
Speak up a little bit.
Can you move closer to the mic, please?
And remind you that everybody has 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I want to make just 2 points. We sat before your planning board for 9 months. They heard all the testimony. They read thousands of exhibits. They were patient and made a decision in a case unanimously. To a man and woman, they voted that this property is not in need of redevelopment, and clearly it is not. My second point is that Morris may claim and tell you tonight that it has some kind of contract with the city. That's simply false. When Judge Barasonic threw out the redevelopment plan and threw out the appointment of the UCIA, the court said not once but 3 times, pursuant to this court's order, the ordinance is establishing the redevelopment agreement, thus creating Morris's rights are void based on my voiding of the ordinance. Morris has no standing and no contract with the city, and it's wrong to make you think that you have some moral obligation under a contract that doesn't exist. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Yamakaitis?
Thank you, Mr. President. Many of us on this council, we inherited this case. I'm not in favor of eminent domain, but I am in favor of doing what is right and following the letter of the law. This was sent back from the planning board to be removed as an area in need of redevelopment. This property lay dormant for years. It was horrible, the conditions there, okay? There has been recent supposed improvements to it. I don't take issue with that, but I do take issue with the issue with inadequate record. Everybody deserves due process. I know the planning board are a group of volunteers. They sat for many hours listening to testimony, but at the same token, it's an inadequate record if everyone did not get their say. So I will be voting no on this. Furthermore, with the recent storm that we just had, and reading through, I did my due diligence and read through paperwork. FEMA removed them from the floodplain with the development they did there. It raises concerns with me with what happened in our city with a lot of the flooding and some of the soil that was put there. I think it needs to be looked at again. So, as I said, I will be voting no on this evening.
Thank you. Pat Hero? Three minutes, please.
You all swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America when you took your oath of office. Unfortunately, nobody really pays attention to the rights of ISP. People want to give the property away to the Morris Group. I believe that there was an adequate record. You can't sit there for 9 months. Of course, they're going to say that there wasn't an adequate record, but everybody had a chance to be heard and spoken about. The fact remains is that it's ISP's property. The Morris Linden Group may be a very good group, but they're not the owner of the property. It's the ISP property. And yes, ISP had the opportunity to develop it at one point, But people didn't want the incinerator there, so they turned that opportunity down because there was such a controversy about it. ISP has spent millions and millions of dollars to get that property in condition for sale. You have no right as a council to take that property and give it to another person, just as if you don't want anybody to take your seat and just give it to somebody who you think might be better suited for that position. It's basically the same thing. It's just simple common sense. We're the United States of America, not United Soviet America. Uphold the principles that this country was founded upon, the right of people to develop their own property, not to give it to politically connected developers, using the government as a tool to do that. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Sharpie.
Thank you, neighbor. And I too, it's owned by ISP. It's theirs to do what they want to do. And if they want to save us taxpayers some money by redeveloping that and bringing taxes into us to lower our taxes, they should have the right to do that. And I hope this council anonymously let them take care of their own, where it can save us taxpayers some money. I think it should be a unanimous vote to let them do what they want with their own. And I hope he's get it right, because this could save us, I think, $8 million. Would that lower our taxes? Think about it. That's what I have to say.
Motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move for approval of Resolution 414 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
No.
Sadowski?
I vote yes, but I hope by having the planning board not listen to all the testimony, we don't end up in another long lawsuit, which I can see coming, but I vote yes.
Thank you.
Sheehy?
I vote yes, but I agree with Mrs. Yamakaitis that it should not be taken out of the floodplain. You know, they haven't moved the property, it is elevated it a little bit, but it still should be in the floodplain. I vote yes.
Yamakaitis?
No.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 415, Mr. Kopecki.
Dennis Kopecki, Rudo Street. I guess what I'm looking for is a little bit of a clarification here that this matter, your position as council president has been brought up in previous council meetings, and...
At our reorganization meeting.
Yes, sir. The question I have then is for the matter to be adjudicated, is this representation that the city would be providing you covered by city ordinances that require us to provide it to you?
Let me defer to our city attorney because it involves me. Mr. Hudak?
This is a matter of, the council has retained an attorney to investigate the matter in court, and because it involves certain rights of the position of council president and the council president himself, and it's a matter of public question, a matter of public interest, it is a point that the city should be providing rather than Mr. Moore having to argue it, because it's really an argument on behalf of the position of the seat of government. So it's a public interest question, and it's rightfully that the city be, which retains the attorney at Mr. Moore's request, should the action be brought to represent his position and the position of council president in court.
Thank you.
Motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move for approval of Resolution 415 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Abstain. Pat Hero, 417.
When you refer to the Southwood Avenue redevelopment plan, are you referring to the Southwood Avenue redevelopment plan that gave Verge the 35-year tax abatement? And reviewing that back to, with, of course, Verge being taken out?
Ms. Chair, this is amending the plan. Verge is no longer involved in the project, so they are out. This is amending the plan. The city has taken RFQs for new developers, and this is amending it to allow the developers to present their plans, which would then go to the planning board, which would review them and make recommendations back to city council.
Okay, because I certainly hope that you do not even think about having a 35-year tax abatement on this. I have never even seen a 35-year tax abatement, you know, on stuff like this, when you look at tax abatements in other communities. So I hope it's a much shorter, if you're going to give a tax abatement, a much shorter time period. Thank you.
Councilman Brown?
Yeah, Ms. Hero, I mean, the difference between this, a redevelopment plan, it's the difference between the redevelopment plan 2001 and the redevelopment plan that's being presented in 2012. And I brought up this issue a couple of council meetings ago, as well as yesterday. I'm going to vote in favor of this to get the ball moving. But there's a planning board meeting, which I'm asking residents to attend. I think it's December 11th. Because what's happening with this property is that basically they're asking for an increase of units. So basically in 2001, the redevelopment plan set forth that 75 units per acre. Now they're requesting 137. So that's an increase of density of about 131%. When I do the calculations, you're talking about units on this property of roughly over 600 units. In addition, the parking space back in 2001, it was 1 parking space per 1-bedroom apartment and 1.75 parking space per 2-bedroom apartments. Now this redevelopment plan is asking for 1.1 parking space per unit. So now you're talking about a 31% decrease in parking. My problem with this is that where this redevelopment is going to happen is already in a crowded area on Wood Avenue, Elizabeth Avenue. I keep talking about this. We know that accidents have happened. There's been fatalities. Anyone who travels, we get this backup of traffic. In my ward alone, a variance was given for parking where we have 96 units being put up. A traffic study hasn't been done that included this increase of density, as well as the 96 units that's been put in my ward. So when this gets referred to the planning board, these are questions that I would like to see answered. You know, what's going to happen with this parking? You know, what's going to happen with the traffic? I mean, we have a traffic problem right now. The density, I don't know where they're going to fit all these units. You know, in the redevelopment plan, if anybody wants it, I have a copy of it. They make a reference to, I think, the 57, 56, 94, 115 bus. And I mentioned yesterday some of that is Florida because the 115 bus is all the way in St. George Avenue. And the 94, 57, 56 bus does not travel to New York. The 94 bus goes to Bloomfield. So there's a lot of questions that I'm going to raise at the planning board, and I encourage other residents who are going to be impacted by the increase of volume to go to the planning board and ask these questions, such as I will.
Councilman Sadowski?
This is on 317, right? 417. Isn't that what we're talking about? The redevelopment? Okay, the redevelopment plan is in the 6th ward, is in my ward. We looked at it, and like I said, it's not perfect, but we have to take a step forward. We have to take a step forward so that we can revitalize the city of Linden. Like I said, it has a lot of drawbacks, I know, but we just have to do it. And like I said, I talked to some of the residents around there. Some of them are the same thing with me. Well, but still, it has to be done. So, like I said, I'm sure others can point out why not. I will be voting yes for this redevelopment plan.
Thank you. Motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move for approval of...
Ms. Hero, you have a final question?
Yeah, I was going to say, he voted, Councilman Sadowski voted against the transit village, was one of the few people to actually do that. And unfortunately, now he seems to be changing his tune. The fact remains is that this is the problem with the transit village. It increases density to an alarming extent, and rather than revitalizes, often ruins the communities that it's a part of. Thank you for your time.
Motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move for approval of Resolution 417 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbas?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. Council, in order to take into consideration public input into proposed ordinance, will allow 3 minutes for each individual to speak on an ordinance on first reading. Council will not answer questions, and everybody's reminded that the public hearing on each of these ordinances be held next month's council meeting. Anybody on my right wish to 5662? Center, left. Motion, please.
Ordinance 5662, an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7 Traffic shall be amended as follows. Section 7-33 Handicap Parking Regulations, 7-33.1A Handicap Parking on Street, add 119 Gessner Street and 414 Ainsworth.
Any comments? Anybody wish to make comment on it from the public? If not, motion, please.
Council President, I move ordinance number 56-62 on introduction. I ask for a second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5663.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 7-22.1 four-way stop intersections as follows. Add DeWitt Street and West Henry Street.
Motion. Anybody in the audience care to make a statement? Motion, please.
Thank you, Council President. I move ordinance number 56-63 for introduction and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5664.
An ordinance to amend an ordinance entitled, an ordinance establishing a schedule of titles, salary ranges, and regulations for maintaining the classification and salary standardization plan for all employees of the City of Linden, passed August 15, 1995, and approved August 16, 1995. Schedule 4 GG6 Salary Ordinance for 2013.
Comments, please? Seeing none, motion, please.
Move for introduction and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5665.
An ordinance of the City of Linden in the County of Union, New Jersey, establishing a tax exemption for totally disabled veterans.
Comments? Motion, please.
Move for an introduction and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5666.
Bond ordinance amending bond ordinance 56-42, finally adopted on August 22nd, 2012.
Comments from the public? Motion, please.
Move for an introduction and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. Going to move into comments from the public, please. Archie Stracella. Three minutes, please.
Archie Strazella, 1600 North Stiles Street. I'd like to make two comments, please. It's okay we put the box. No problem. We can get more red light cameras, but I still would like to see the city find a way to get this traffic moving, because I realize that Linden has a funny shape. If you look at the map, it looks like a chair, really. You have to have an imagination. It looks like a chair. We got industries over here, and here's Linden. You got the Parkway, you got Route 22, you got 19 Highway and the Turnpike, and people just going back and forth. So that's what people, like, when people get off Route 22, they want to get on the Parkway, on Michigan Boulevard and Michigan Ave and the Boulevard, they have a long left-hand turn. That's what we need, more traffic control. Not control, but moving the traffic better, much better. We can improve on that. And you gotta remember, we have a lot of trucks in this town that take up a lot of space. And the second thing is, I hate to say this, but I never lost power during the storm. And I was watching the news. I knew everything about down the shore, Seaside Heights, Asbury Park, Union Beach, Breezy Point there, Long Island, Bayonne, Hoboken, nothing about Linden. I had no idea we were getting flooded down there. So I never lost power. So what happened is people borrowed my gasoline. I was prepared. I hate to admit this, but I'm a doomsday prepper. I was prepared. Yes, I had food, water, gasoline, my generator. I was ready. I hunkered down the house. I was prepared. But I never lost power. So I'm watching all this. So people borrowed my gasoline. They borrowed my generator. They called me up for money to buy food. So, and this 70-year-old lady walking by my house who ran out of gas, I helped her get gasoline and got her going. So I helped out the neighbors as much as possible. But I would like to remind everybody that this country is always at war with Mother Nature. You have floods, hurricanes, twisters, tornadoes, floods. Did I miss anything else? So there's always some part of this country getting destroyed. And you must be prepared. Yes.
30 seconds.
So I'd like to remind now, this storm is over. Now you got to start preparing for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. Dolores Hines.
Dolores Hines, Harrison Place, Linden. I am the treasurer of the Mayor's Youth Commission. I'm also the coordinator for the Municipal Alliance Program for the City of Linden. I work with Keith Aslin of the Juvenile Department, who is the chairperson of the Alliance. The Municipal Alliance Program is funded by the county, and each city has several programs that monies are allocated to, which involve drug and alcohol. Some of our programs are the Off-Track Program, held at Soul Junior, AOD presentation, project graduation, and the Masterpiece Program, which is a continuation of the DARE program. It is run by Reverend Donaldson, and volunteers are there every Friday and Saturday nights at the Multi-Purpose Center. I do the kitchen and do the vouchers for payment of food and bills. I donate approximately 85 hours a quarter for the Masterpiece Program. Brown requested a copy of all monies affiliated with subject program back in July of this year from our Treasurer's Department, which I have copies of. It has come to my attention by several people who are my witnesses and who attended a Board of Education candidates night held by Brown, with the public attending at the Elks Club on East Elm Street in Linden, Tuesday night, October 23rd. Brown, in his speech, as usual, criticized the mayor and then went on to say that hot dogs were served every Friday and Saturday night at the Multi-Purpose Center, and continued, and I will quote verbal, $18,000 was granted for the program, but Dolores Hines can only account for $9,000. Where's the rest of the money? This is a false accusation. It is a slander and defamation of character, and you have false statements. I want to know what proof you have that I took money, being that you made it at a public meeting.
Can I respond?
And hurry
Councilman
up,
Brown?
because I
Thank
have
you.
5 minutes.
Ms. Hines, just like you don't like to be accused
You
of
have
things.
to talk a little louder.
Just like you don't like to be accused of things, neither do I. Like you said, just like you do not like to be accused of things, neither do I. There's members of the public who were at that meeting.
That's right.
And one of them is a board member. I did not make that comment. My comment was, and is consistent, is that just like anything else I do here with the city, I like to look through the financials, being that I did. Do I have a problem with the way that money's being spent with the Municipal Alliance Program? Yes. that we had Youth at Risk program that was cut, we had the DARE program that was cut. There's a lot of programs that were
Don't
cut.
count his talking on my time.
No, but,
For the record, when the council person speaks, the clock stops.
okay. So this accusation that I said you're stealing money or anything else like that is completely false unless you heard it, but Ms. Hines.
I have
unless-
witnesses that were
Ms. Hines,
there.
I was there.
Quoted verbally.
Ms. Hines, like you said, it was my meeting. I can give you a list of the people who were there. And so, I mean, there's people in the audience who were here, who were there. And so, I mean, again, my problem with the program, which I'm looking through, and I've brought other council members, is how the money's being spent. When I see $7,500 being spent on food, and that's documented, I want to see, well, why are we not spending that money like they used to back in the day on their programs, whether it's T-shirts, certificates? Like, I believe that this money should be put back in the school system so that all school kids benefit. That's my belief. But at the same time, I have never accused you of stealing any money, and if you have, I mean, unless you have this recorded, unless you were there present.
I have witnesses, 3 witnesses.
And I got more than 3 witnesses
See,
that could say something
you have
different.
these little meetings. Have you ever come to me and asked me any question?
Ms.
Yes
Hines,
or no?
in regards to this?
To this?
No,
To
I'm still
anything with the
looking into it.
Municipal Alliance?
I know what the Municipal Alliance grant is. My
See,
signature is
you
on
have
some
your
of this
little
stuff.
meetings, and you invite certain people, and then you put little, like,
All right,
lies
Mr.
about
Dolores,
person.
you got
You
51
never come
minutes,
face to
51
face
Ms.
with a
Hines,
person.
I invited everyone in my ward to the
I
meeting.
do reports every quarter for the county. They are audited. I have a letter from the county. There is nothing amiss. So you have no right to make a statement like that.
Ms.
It's
Hines.
about time we got in your closet and took out all your dirty laundry and skeletons.
So what you're telling me,
That's-
Ms. Hines,
you
you're getting
get
it
paid
from
for a
somebody
job
else.
to do up there, do it, and
And I
stop
have.
trying to get something on people. You owe me a public apology.
Ms. Hines,
You owe
again,
me a public apology.
unless you were there and unless you have
I
it recorded, I do not say.
15
I have
seconds.
witnesses
And
that would say
legally,
different.
that stands. You
Ms. Hines.
defamated my character and your slander, and it will go farther.
Thank you. Dennis Kopecki. And I would ask the audience to refrain from actions like that, please.
Well, hopefully I'll try to talk about something a little bit calmer. But earlier in the evening, we did hear some comments about communications breakdowns in the city during this last catastrophe, and certainly I applaud everyone involved, as has already been brought out by all of you council members tonight. But one thing which occurred to me is a saying that we have within the hobby: when all else fails, there's amateur radio. And I also, well, all right, a little background. I've got almost 50 years of being licensed as a ham radio operator. I got my first license while I was at Linden High School with the kindness of former physics teacher Lester Barr, pardon me. And I've kept up with the hobby more than anything else. You know, boating has come, fishing has come, bowling leagues and things of that sort have long since come and gone, but the amateur radio hobby I still come back to. The background I want to present is that at one time, our OEM did have a contingent of dedicated volunteer amateurs that would meet, I think, on Tuesday nights or so in one of the rooms down in the police building. And for what it was worth, they were available. They volunteered their time and their equipment. There was a small budget for replacing city equipment that did take place, and some of the old equipment just was filtered over to the members who were on that OEM task force committee, call it what you will. No, we did not have a public radio station such as has been brought out as far as, oh, that's something we need. Archie says, okay, he knew everything about Union City and Bayonne and so on, whereas I know for a fact that Roselle, I think, operates on 1640 kilohertz. Clark is on 1710 kilohertz, and you see at almost all of the airports, tuned to a certain frequency to get information about the airport, which I think we also can set up. So for your December 11th meeting, I'd like to at least present to you the thought that there is something else out there besides cell phones. Again, when all else fails, there is amateur radio. Please take a moment to at least address that during your December 11th meeting. And for that matter, I'd be happy to come down and tell you what I can about it at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And you would be? 2 minutes. John, no, we got Suzanne Barsick.
Good evening.
Good
I'm
evening.
Susan Borsnicka. I live on East 13th Street in Linden. First of all, I'd like to say that most of my comments address the flood situation. Yes, I understand we did have a superstorm, but we've had flooding problems in our area before. Last year with the Irene we did, and previously, maybe 5 years ago with that one hurricane we had in September, we also had flooding issues then. And some of the reasons we feel that we have this problem is that along Morse's Creek, you created flumes up in the northern end of Linden, and all of that water is now very nicely channeled into all of those concrete drainage flumes. The water now will move upstream from upstream faster into our area. In addition, if you look at Linden, you'll notice that through the years, things have changed. We have the airport project, we have GM being developed. They put an all-purpose field or an all-weather field in Wheeler Park. What's the first thing they did? They put a drainage pipe under it that flows into Morse's Creek, which further comes down to us, down our end. Where the senior housing is on Dill Avenue, at one time that was farmland, it was Lampert's Dairy. Where Sam's Club and TGI Fridays are, that used to be just either the tank field or whatever. There was more drainage there. BJ's, there was more drainage. Now these areas are being developed and there's all paving there. What we would like to suggest is that down at our end of town, we would like to see the creek, Morse's Creek, dredged, widened, and cleaned out from Wheeler Park down to 16th Street, down to the refinery reservoirs. We'd also like to see this process repeated with the Peach Orchard Brook by BJ's from Linden Avenue to the Route 1 to the refinery reservoirs. Also, if the banks could be built up along Morse's Creek using that rectangular wire mesh with rocks maybe like the barriers you see along the highway, backfill it with dirt, make it deeper. It's very shallow at this point in time. Also, the parks by Morse's Creek would like to see those turned into catch basins to retain water during storms, which maybe would cause less damage to homes and properties. In addition, Phillips 66, if they could do some dredging maybe on their property for their reservoirs, and how about a pumping station at the end of Emma Place to pump the water back into the river during the storms. Also, a lot of the issues that we were going to speak about, you've already addressed, such as emergency preparedness. I was going to mention the reverse 911 system. We have cell phones. We also have Comcast for our phones, so that was out. So the radio sounds like a great idea. We understand that there was a meeting for people in our neighborhood, but we never heard it because they were going around with some sort of a PA system and we didn't know about it. We had no TV, no electricity. Perhaps if the OEM or someone could go house to house, maybe a couple houses, and let us pass the word, we'd do that. Or those PA systems you have for election campaigns work really, really well. Maybe you could have used those. We also had a situation on 13th Street during the storm, and there were wires burning on the house on the corner, and the fire department fortunately was there. They called PSE&G, who had promised
30 seconds, please.
Okay. They promised a 1-hour response time. It took 9 hours till they arrived, and the fire department was on standby the whole time. That was really a waste of our resources. And hopefully maybe you could kind of think about some of this stuff. And we feel like we're the forgotten side of Linden a lot of times on the other side of the highway. Things happen down there. And we call, yeah, you know, sometimes we get a response, sometimes we don't. But would like a starting point, would like to see something done, if you consider it. Thank you. Yeah.
John,
President, can I?
John's your...
Council President, can I speak?
Mr. Mayor? and then I got you.
Ma'am, can you call my office? The mayor, I'm speaking over here. That's okay. Can you call my office and set up an appointment? I'd like to sit down with you and just brainstorm a little bit, if you would. You could bring him. I'll allow you to bring him.
Councilman Sadowski?
I know your problems down there. From last summer when we had the storm, Jack and I in the 7th Ward, we sort of delved into to see almost exactly what you were saying. And we got responses, but basically, to cut through all this stuff was that it would have to be, the Army Engineer Corps, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And it would cost all sorts of whatever it is money. But we did check into it, and we still are. I know they didn't do anything, and like I said, this is the second time 16th Street and Emma Place. Like I said, I walked down there last year, up the water up to my knees. This time, the water was already in the cellars when I went down there. It wasn't on the streets. Maybe I should mention it now. I'll be coming around tomorrow, 16th, and Emma, and I'll be handing out some sheets, because some of the questions someone asked was, they get any kind of representation from the city, expertise, and so on and so forth. So we checked into this. I'll be going around. We have here, I guess, an expert. We have Ms. Carol Ziegler. She's from Phillips 66.
Yeah, she's a nice person, but she's not an expert.
No, but just, if you could, no, you're not the expert, I know that. But if you could maybe talk a couple of, because I see about 8 or 10 other people here from Emma Place, maybe you could just explain a little, 2 minutes about the oil and what was going on and so on and so forth?
Would you please come to the microphone?
Yeah, better with the mic.
Hi, thank you. Carol Ziegler, Public Affairs Manager for Phillips 66 Bayway Refinery. Our refinery sits on the Arthur Kill River, as you know, and we experienced a 15-foot tidal surge during the hurricane, which literally swept over the refinery like a tsunami. It took with it oil from a retention basin that's along the river and deposited most of it up into the Rose Hill Cemetery, and also impacting some residents along Emma Place, Clinton Street, 19th to 16th, I believe, 19th to 13th, pardon me. So when we realized that we had a problem with the oil being taken out of the refinery on the tidal surge, we mobilized resources to come in and clean up the spill. The cemetery was the most heavily impacted area, and thus most of our resources were deployed there. That cleanup is, in the emergency response portion, almost in conclusion, and we're advancing that to what we call remediation response, which is basically like a fine-tuning oil cleanup. I have worked with a number of residents along Emma Place to clean their properties and address their issues with their basements, and if anyone else is here that I haven't had an opportunity to speak to, I'd be glad to talk to them as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just would like to point, because I got a couple of calls saying, what broke down at the refinery? Nothing broke down.
Nothing broke. We
Nothing
got
broke.
hit
There
by
was
a
nothing.
tidal wave,
It was just
basically.
that tidal surge.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
If some of them want to come up, she'll be there. I guess they could ask questions.
Yep.
Would
I'll
you
be
mind? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So John, come up and,
John Barsnicka, 115 East 13th Street.
and we have a 3-minute.
Some of the other issues that a lot of us are seeing is they're pouring billions of dollars into the Jersey Shore, building up 30-foot berms. What do we need to fix our area? We don't need billions of dollars. We're looking at a couple of $1 million to build up the walls along the river, dredge the river. I mean, these people are tired of getting flooded out on Emma Place, 13th Street, 14th Street. The one church on 14th Street goes underwater every time it rains. It's enough already. Years ago, they built the flumes. The water was pushed down to our area. They never dredged the river. I don't want to hear the Army Corps of Engineers or was the storm of the century. We've had 2 storms of the centuries in 2 years. I don't want to hear about the floodgates in the refinery. They were open. It takes some work to fix the problem. If you can't fix the problem, it'll at least mitigate the problem. You need to stop some of the water coming in. These people are tired of getting flooded out, throwing out furnaces, dryers, washers, hot water heaters. Thousands of dollars it's costing each person in that area. If their insurance doesn't cover it, they have to cover it. We'll be very happy to meet with you, give you some of our ideas, walk the area with you where we think retention basins can be built. You have to expand the river's capacity, and it'll help our area.
John, Mrs. Yamakaitis, Councilwoman Yamakaitis has a comment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to express my concern for this also. As Mr. Archie up here said, he was one of the lucky ones in Linden. He was bunkered down, had his TV set, but he didn't know what was going on the other end of Linden. And as you had mentioned, the Jersey Shore, everybody's getting the attention. We need to yell help from Linden. We need, as Mr. Sadowski said, the Army Corps of Engineers have to come in. We need the help now. My ward also had flooding issues. We had some apartment buildings where the basement apartments were again this year flooded out. I think the refinery kind of saved us a little bit with the foundation issues. They took the brunt of it, but like I said, the basements in my ward, some of them had 2-3 feet of water. Streets, we had waist-high water, and people ended up with dead fish in their basements. We need answers, so I offer my support, anything we can do. I'd like to join with my colleagues from the 6th and 7th Ward, our mayor. We need to rally to get the help we need here in Linden.
Well-
We had people getting rescued, swimming out of their houses in Tremley. That wasn't seen on the news. We had a bad blow to the city, and it needs to be addressed.
Well, I'll put the ball back in your court. You represent the city. You have to go to Trenton or Washington, D.C., whatever it takes to get the funding, to get the permits from the EPA or the Army Corps of Engineers. That's your job. You're
Councilman Shi, you have a
representing us.
comment to make?
Yeah, I'd like to follow up what these 2 residents said. They're 100% right. It's just common knowledge. We built these flumes through the brook that comes through the city of Linden. In the 1st Ward, there used to be a park. That park was actually a flood zone. It flooded there first, and then it came down through the 2nd Ward, the park that's on Curtis Street. That used to be a flood area. That used to flood slowly, and then the water would keep coming down toward the 6th and 7th Ward. But now we built these walls, and it's like a log flume ride. I don't want to sound ridiculous, but you can actually sit in a canoe on St. George Avenue, and within 2 minutes, you'll be under the highway. That's the fury that this water has when it comes through the 6th Ward and it hits the 7th Ward. And when it hits the 7th Ward, it makes a dead left-hand turn into the refinery on Winans Avenue. And it's just eating and eroding the property away. And what we need is exactly what you're doing. Come up here and lay it on us, because Mr. McDonald's been working on this because it's eroding 2 parks. It's just tearing the parks apart. And we talked about the gable blocks in the cages. That'll help eroding it, but it's still, what happens then when it gets past Winans Avenue, when it makes the left, I'm speaking.
Sir?
When it gets into the refinery, there's a pond there, and that pond needs to be dredged. That pond is only, say, at its deepest, maybe 2 foot. That pond needs to be 10 foot deep. But what's in the bottom of that pond, nobody wants to touch. It's the same thing when it comes down through Peach Orchard. The Peach Orchard brook comes where BJ's used to be. There used to be a holding pond there. It's no longer there. So now it goes into the refinery. At that pond, we can all see right there on the highway. And I don't think that pond is 10 inches deep where you could see birds standing in the middle of it when it's completely full. And if that pond was dredged, it would help. So we lost the 2 holding ponds in the two parks and the one at BJ's, and then it just gets into the refinery, and there's nowhere for it to go, and it just backs up into our town. You know,
Exactly. So you have to clean out these streams. If you look at the one by BJ's, it's full of trees.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have a response from Councilwoman Cosby Hurley.
That would be me. I just wanted to just let you know that we're aggressively seeking to get, through the engineering department, some money to get rid of the silt and also to try and get, the brooks lowered. But it's very, very, very expensive. We have the money for the permits, but we're seeking creative ways to get grants so that we have to start by BJ's and work backwards up to Peach Orchard. I totally understand your frustration, but just know that we are definitely looking at it already.
you have to start at the highway and work back, not at BJ's. at
No,
the
but this,
highway.
where we are for the Peach Orchard, not the Morris Creek. They're
No,
two
I'm
different
saying
ones.
at BJ's area, which is I would call the old Lampert's Creek.
Right.
You have to start at the highway and work all the way back. That stream feeds all the way back to Peach Orchard.
Councilman Brown,
Right.
you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, just the way Jack explained everything, Jack actually educated me yesterday on this. I mean, the good thing is
Councilman Sheehy?
I mean, Councilman Sheehy, sorry. Councilman Sheehy and Michelle Yamakaitis, if you go in the back, there's a map back there, and they broke everything down. So the next step is, we know what the problem is, how do we solve it? And one thing I mentioned to Councilman Sheehy, and what we need to do as a council, you mentioned Trenton. Good thing is, we have a state senator who lives in town, and some of these issues that need to be fixed, maybe the county needs to help us out, and we have a freeholder who lives in Linden. So it's going to be on us to reach out to the higher-ups who work down in Trenton, who work down in the county, to help us out, because you're right, everybody else is receiving attention, and people coming in and doing these walks in these towns and everything else, but unfortunately, it's an ongoing problem. And so maybe we just need to be more active in reaching out to our partners, as I call them, down in Trenton and down at the county, to help solve this problem. Because, I mean, luckily we have council members like Sheehy and Yamakaitis that know what the issues are. We just need to get the money to fix it.
My question, one of is, at Wheeler Park, was there an impact study done there before they put in this all-weather field of what that's going to do to the stream? The first one they put in was a 36-inch culvert in the middle of the field. They haven't done the surface of it yet. That's the first thing they put in. That's going right into that stream. You look at a football-sized area, even if it's an inch deep of rain, how much more volume is that into that area? You're killing us on our end of town. The more development you're doing, we're getting it. The more and more. General Motors, you're raising the area there about 3 feet with soil. You're encapsulating it. I don't know if they're going to clean it up. I thought that was supposed to be a cleanup area. After General Motors left, you're putting dirt in there. You're raising it up, all flooding down to our end of town.
Thank you,
Please help
sir.
us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Paul Sharpie? 3 minutes.
I know. Number one, why the city during this, City Hall here did not have a backup generator to keep this building going. We only had for the fire and police. Number two, these old trees that we had, there's a germ that got inside of them trees. One was the one I looked at that fell in Larson Park on Walnut Street. And there's various trees that did fall had a germ in them because of their age and the years that they've been around. There's a germ and an insect, it's like a termite, it goes inside the tree. And there's so few of them we have standing. And I've just been elected for my fellowship for the next 2 years as a PI and district representative, which entails Linden. And I currently was with Dr. Robert Tosi showing us the films that we have at Alcoholics Anonymous. And we're currently in the process in next month of taking our program into the schools. And Dolores, you do a fine job with those kids, keeping them off the streets here in Linden, that they're not involved in the drug criteria that's going on with us teenagers and young adults here. I've been mentioning. And also, the crossing guard issue that I brought up last week. Well, this past Saturday, I got stuck up like that with a gun in my face. At the same time, my children could have been walking at that time, a quarter to 6 in the morning.
That was
My-
Roselle, right?
Okay, I don't care what town, it could have been here. Could have been here in Linden. My daughters could have been walking in there and got stuck up just like I got stuck up. Okay? Now, if that was your child walking into school with 85 other cadets that have to walk into the schools at that time in the morning, would you want one of their child not to be detected on the crossing, on the streets?
You're talking about Roselle, though.
I'm not talking, it could have happened here,
Can't have this, come on.
All right.
you know?
Thank you for your comments, sir. Please sit down.
Okay,
Mr.
Let
Sharpie,
me
you have
tell
30 seconds. Go
let
ahead.
me tell you,
Mr. Sharpie?
if my
20
children get shot or killed by any drug addict that's going through this town, and I've been telling yous about it, yous haven't found the one who killed Amber. Now, what
Enough.
kind of city is
Enough.
this?
Lower your
Mr. Sheehy.
voice and sit down.
The gentleman has the right to speak, freedom of speech for 3 minutes, anything he wants to
Well, I
say.
apologize to him. Enough's enough.
Pat Hero. Oh, no, Ann Barberino? She in the audience?
Thank you. November 20th would have been the 87th birthday of Robert Francis Kennedy, my political inspiration. He was a politician who truly cared about the poor and disadvantaged. We seem to lack that a lot today. I want to thank God for bringing me through this, for bringing us all through this year, and for the people of Linden for caring about their community and their continued support. I'd like to thank everyone who turned out and helped with the big superstorm. I especially like to thank DPW and the maintenance people, Public Properties, for going above and beyond this year. They even went above and beyond. I want to thank Gary Luciano for scheduling such great concerts this year, everyone in the tax collector's office for their patience in responding to my many questions, and of course Joe Bodek in the city clerk's office for being so incredibly helpful. I'd also like to thank Mr. Alan Roth and Chief Bavona. I'd like to thank Councilman Colibus for voting that ISP not be declared an area in need of redevelopment. I'd like to thank Councilman Cozio for delivering the information on the computers to me. I'd like to thank Councilman Brown for the hospitality you showed at a picnic you hosted. I'd like to thank Councilman Armstead for responding to my questions about an issue I was concerned about. I'd like to thank Councilwoman Cosby Hurley for helping me with a transportation need and providing me with a copy of a resolution. I'd like to thank Councilman Sadowski for helping me with transportation. I'd like to thank Councilman Sheehy. While we always appreciate this councilman, this year I appreciated his continued growth in knowledge and wisdom, his incredible depth. I just keep appreciating him more and more and more, and his willingness to disagree with me on an issue without being disagreeable about it. I'd like to say more, but Council President Moore won't give me that much time. I'd like to thank Councilwoman Yamakaitis for attending the Ham and Yam dinner and promoting the library book sale. I'd like to thank Councilman Frazier for his 15 years of service, for being a model of professionalism on the council and being a wonderful independent. As one person said, when I asked who her councilman was, she said, "I've got the best. I've got Frazier." I'd like to thank Councilman Kaczynski for being a fine independent representative, for making decisions he feels are best for the people and not just being a rubber stamp. I have high hopes for you. I'd like to thank Council President Moore for helping me with my transportation needs and listening to my opinion on city issues. I'd like to thank the mayor for remembering my birthday and for voting for ISP's need to not be declared an area in need of redevelopment. Something's happening here. I don't understand it. People are laughing, but anyway, let's continue. I'd also like to thank the people in the tent city. They made Linden their temporary home. I hope we made them feel welcome. They came, they left their homes, they left heat and power, radios and family, all to come to our community. I was so proud we hosted them to help make Linden a better place in the surrounding communities, to give them heat and light and power, and living in a tent city. Thank you so much. And that's my traditional Thanksgiving speech. Thank you.
Ann Babiano from Woodbridge. John Principato.
Good evening, John Principato, 1706 Westover Road. I'd just like to express my thanks to everyone in front of me. I'm very proud to be a resident of the city of Linden, and everyone here should be too, because I witnessed things in other towns. I'm right on the borderline of Clark, and I witnessed the difference between Clark and Linden right away. Clark may be a nice town, but I think that we have the best city in Linden, and I am very proud to say I'm a resident of the city of Linden. And after what I saw, I didn't go to the 5th Ward, but I heard a lot about what Councilwoman Hurling did, and I didn't get over to the 8th Ward either, but I was in the 7th Ward. And what I saw in the 7th Ward made me prouder than I've ever been of this city. And I just want to say that Councilman Sheehy lost his house, and he was at that rec center. The couple times that I stopped by, he was there. And I got to say, you guys in the 7th Ward are very lucky to have Councilman Sheehy. You should be very proud of Councilman Sheehy. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mr. William Ross.
Good evening. For the record, it's William Ross. I live at East 13th Street, 119 in Linden, and I've been a resident here since June. During Sandy, I saw Emma Place on East 13th Street filled with water within 20 minutes. Many cars were submerged and homes were destroyed because of the surge of water. It was so sad that I saw that the next day I saw fish, like a little fish on the sewer. Still can't believe that happened. I saw my neighbor John, who lives right next to me, walk through 2 feet of water and knocking on doors to make sure that all the neighbors were okay. I saw many tow trucks pick up cars that were damaged from rising waters. The next day I saw neighbors helping each other pick up after the storm and tell their story of what they lost in their homes. I saw neighbors helping each other out by supplying power through their generators. I saw a home on Emma Place having water pumped out of the basement for more than 3 hours. I saw a cleanup crew sent by Phillips 66 to help my neighbors on Emma Place clean up chemical residue from their homes. I witnessed so many homes around Emma Place and East 13th Street regain power as we were still dark for a while. Like we had it, but then for some reason, because there was a tree and there was another tree on Emma Place, we lost power again for another 9 days after that. I can go into more details, things I saw, and I still can't believe that happened. Notice that I've reported things that I've witnessed, which were far from unbelievable, but they did happen. What I can't believe at this moment, that this is the first time I'm meeting my councilman, and this is the first time I'm seeing my mayor. I understand that you were also homeowners in here in Linden, but 9 days after the storm, I still haven't seen you guys. There were rumors that you coming to Emma Place, but why wasn't the announcement made also to East 13th Street? The whole neighborhood to have a meeting at least, some type of, hey, we're here with you. So what I've witnessed so far and what I feel is that you guys have ignored Emma Place and the residents of East 13th Street. I witnessed the mayor and the city council. Well, it feels good to be here now to hear that you guys know the problem, but I feel as if we are neglected. So I ask you guys to please, instead of just saying we're going to do something about it, I would like never to come back here again and say that you guys haven't done anything. Just do something, please. I want just an answer. Army Corps of Engineers, no, you guys have councilmen written. You have some type of power. You can talk to governors. You can talk to the heads of PSE&G. There's something that can be done. We don't have to wait another 9 days for a tree to be cut. If all it takes is just one phone call or several phone calls. Thank you.
Thank you. Council conference meeting Monday, December 17th, 2012 at 6 p.m. in the council conference room, City Hall, 301 Northwood Avenue. Council conference meeting prior to the council meeting, Tuesday, December 18th, 2012, 6 p.m. in the council conference room, City Hall, 301 Northwood Avenue. Council meeting Tuesday, December 18th, 2012, at 7 p.m. in the council chambers, City Hall, 301 Northwood Avenue. Motion to adjourn, please.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Colbus. Mr. Gosi.
He's excused.
Brown.
Yes.
Armstead.
Yes.
Crosby Hurling. Sadowski.
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
Makaitis. Frazier. Kaczynski.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.